a king. Hey, catch this rhythm. You feel that? That's called playerism. I'm on the scene, a player clean, poker face, 4 queens. I got 4 of a kind on everything. Dig this, living elite. I don't feel complete without kicking at my feet in a Rolls Royce every week. Maybe this is deep. Listen close when I speak. I need to at least, cause I'm too much. I'd be a fool if I love him. You'll be a fool if you trust him. Here with my niggas, we keeping it gangsta. Yeah, I'm a slayer, I'm just keeping it player. I'm fucking her now, we're man eating it later. That's maybe why he is a hater. I'm wearing all black like I'm being a raider. You talk to police, we call you a traitor. I'm running the city, they call me for favors. I'm running the city, they call me the mayor. It's getting political with me, my street presidential, she give me the Quit banging my line, ho. Quit banging my line, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. When you see me act like you don't even know me, ho. Come on, baby, get a clue. How you do what you do? How do you fall in love with me, but I'm not in love with you? Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints! Peace to the saints. And can we send a big thank you out to the haters who know they're haters? Can we send a better thank you out to the haters who don't even know they haters? You know, because when I look at it and I see this number of people are waiting for the video to start, but they didn't click the like, I'm like, I know I'm giving out good work because people are like, I don't even like the Saint, but the information's so good. I got to watch it anyways. The information's good. Trending news. Here we go. We're going to be talking about the most important events occurring around the world today, not only sharing what it is that's trending, but also going into how it's reported, a little bit of analysis, really unpacking it so you understand, and most importantly, you understand how it relates to your life and your pocketbook every now and then. Shout out to OH. He's often supporting the work. In fact, I think he supported last stream, right?
Yep. We have Jamal on Cash App. He said for the replay. And we have Johnny, who also supported last stream's tuition as well.
It's amazing how some folks just supported last stream and other folks have never supported in life.
Correct.
But it's never too late for you to turn over a new leaf. You dig? And show love to those who show love to you. That's what society is about. That's what civilization is about. You did.
And we have Kendall who sent a PayPal on the last stream with a link about a Wells Fargo employee that he would like discussed.
Yes, and I just had that link up. Here it is right here. Oh, shout out to Kendall. He sent in a current event via Cash App. And the headline for this news clipping is, quote, Wells Fargo VP. Now, mind you, if you're a VP in a company, that's very high up. So you would trust that this is a reasonably responsible man, certainly an intelligent man. Wells Fargo VP, Shankar Mishra, sounds like this guy might be Indian, fired for, quote, urinating on passenger on an airplane. Whoa, that's different. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say, if you didn't pull out your meat and you just start peeing on people nearby, you probably off of a pill or something worse. This is not normal behavior. Even if you was a wild boy, this would even be wild for a wild boy. He didn't pull out his meat and start peeing on people. Wowzer. Let's hear what the consequences may have been. I'm hoping there's some jail time involved. That's lewd conduct, indecent exposure, sexual assault. That's all kind of stuff, isn't it?
George supported again and sent a Cash App.
Shout out to George. Truly appreciate it. And if it's on the airplane, I feel like the FBI needs to be involved. That's interstate crime. Wells Fargo has terminated its vice president of operations in India after he allegedly urinated on a 72-year-old woman. I don't know what's worse, a minor or a senior citizen. Which one would you have rather peed on? Nobody. Let me see. I think I would have. I'm not getting into it. Anyways, peed on a 72-year-old woman while they both flew business class
aboard a recent Air India flight. My only curiosity is, was this an Indian woman he was peeing on? I'm just personally curious. Now, she was in business class, so she's not a broke senior citizen. I hope she's connected to somebody who can slap this boy's helmet off, because this is outrageous behavior. I don't condone it. Shankar Mishra, who worked for Wells Fargo at its Mumbai corporate office. I was actually just in Mumbai, 2 months ago? Yeah, just in Mumbai. Was identified as the executive who was terminated, according to English language news site of blah, blah, blah. Anyways, Mishra was said to be drunk while aboard a November 26th flight from New York to New Delhi. Now, here's the thing. I know a lot of you alkies are watching right now like, I've been drunk. I ain't never been that drunk. I've been drunk. I ain't never been pee on an old woman drunk. I ain't never been that drunk. I've been pee on myself drunk, but not pee on other people drunk. And if you're in business class, I understand that they have restrooms that are designated exclusively for business or first class. So I believe they had accommodations for him. This dude is a sick puppy, and he deserves to be what they do to dogs that don't behave. That's what he needs. Carrying on. Let's see if it mentions consequences. During the flight, Mishra urinated on a 72-year-old woman who was seated next to him in business class. An attorney, you're going to need an attorney after peeing on somebody. An attorney for Mishra told local media that the banking executive reached a financial settlement with the unidentified victim as compensation. Well, at least she was able to go ahead and cha-cha-cha-ching. Luckily, they didn't put her name in the article, because I certainly wouldn't want to go down in Google history as somebody who got peed on in general. That's unfortunate. I know you're probably wondering, well, what does a guy who pees on old women look like? Well, I'm going to show you, because we all need to know this man's face. You ever end up on a flight and you sit next to this boy right here, you go ahead and ask to be reseated. I don't care how civil he looked. You get you a new seat, okay? Say that's the guy that pees on people. Instead, let's get a little bit more on this article. This boy is wild. This man peeing on people. The crew brought the offender before me against my wishes, and we were made to sit opposite of each other in the crew seats, the woman said. Oh, that's a pity. So after he done peed on the woman, they done basically made her sit right across from him. You think this was one of those things where they like wrapped you in blankets afterwards so you don't get cold? Because airplanes are cold, right? You think they like wrapped her in blankets like she looked like a victim? I'm a survivor. Shout out to Vicente. He writes, peace to the saints. Stay blessed, MDB. I appreciate it. Thank you for the work. And thank you to those who support this segment. I know this segment is not as popular as doing a 3-hour stream about the Young Thug case, but this is important stuff. And thank you to the intellectuals, to the upright men and women who support this segment.
We have Larry said, tuition for the big P. Salute to you, family, for all the consistency and inspiration you give us daily. Peace to the saints.
Thank you very much. That's a kind message. Peace to the saints. Mishra reportedly arranged to have the woman's clothing and bag cleaned afterward, being that it was stained with urine. But the woman is said to have returned the money and filed a complaint with the airline, as she should. You think you wouldn't have to file a complaint. You think that would be an automatic complaint filing. According to the complaint, she asked the flight attendants and staff to have Mishra arrested and to keep him away from her. And instead, they just sat him across from her directly. That's pretty incompetent. But again, if you were on my last stream, you learned something about human nature and how human beings behave in situations where they don't have requisite experience or a reference point. Mishra is reported to have sobered up. He apologized to the woman, begged her not to file a complaint. Oh, I bet he did beg her. Mishra's tearful expression of remorse persuaded the woman not to have him arrested and charged. She was a dingbat, because she definitely should have had him arrested and charged. That's precisely why women should not be unaccompanied. A man should always be there. Because I would have said, oh, hold on, Grandma. Sit down and shut up before I pee on you. I'm going to pee on you. You say something crazy again, talking about he ain't going to jail. Nah, bro, you going to jail. You're going to jail because you done whipped out and you done peed on my grandma. It's not right. I'm not letting it slide. You're going to jail. And Grandma, don't sit so close to me. You smell like pee, Grandma. No, don't take your clothes off. Don't nobody need to see that. Keep them on. Just keep your distance. And turn the AC off in this airplane. You see she's wet. It's going to make her cold. Anyways, police in New Delhi are said to be looking for Mishra. I guess he dipped, huh? Whose whereabouts are unknown according to the newspaper, according to Hindi newspapers. This man just peed and skipped, huh? Wow. The Post has sought comment from Wells Fargo. The bank told Indian media outlets that the employee was fired and that the allegations were, quote, deeply disturbing. I tend to agree, but that is a truism. You've not said anything insightful. We were all disturbed when we heard about it. Peeing on seniors. An Air India spokesman told the Post, quote, Air India has taken a very serious view of the incident where a passenger behaved in an unacceptable and undignified manner on the New York Delhi flight that caused extreme distress to a fellow passenger. I hate when we get these quotations that don't mean anything and don't tell you anything. This is what we've been reduced to in the society. That statement literally taught us nothing. It didn't tell us what the consequence is going to be. It didn't tell us if he's banned from future flights. Gave us no insight.
I did that article from 2 days ago. I found an updated article that he was arrested. He turned his phone off and was hiding, but they were able to find him.
Yes.
He got 14 days in jail, and Air India banned him from flying for 30 days.
Banned him for 30 days? That's ridiculous. Air India, you're garbage. I might have to tweet at Air India. Remind me to tweet at Air India and say, you didn't ban this man for just 30 days after peeing on a senior. He needs to be banned for life. I mean, I've done things that are far less crude on TikTok, and they banned me for life. We need TikTok to do the banning.
Okay, we have Jaden sent a cash out. He said, peace to the Saints tuition.
Peace to the Saints. Quote, a police complaint has already been... Oh, I guess you gave us the update, so we can carry on to the next article. All right. Now, you guys, of course, you want to hear about rappers, so Young Thug. First off, I'd like to point out that if I was on trial for anything, I certainly wouldn't want to be referred to as a thug. I think the key is not to name yourself that. He named himself Young Thug, and now he's in court being referred to as a thug, generally a classification which is not going to bode well in the criminal justice system because you've given yourself the name of a criminal, which is thug. Amazing. The blacks amazing. Anyways, back to rapper Young Thug. Rapper Young Thug to go to trial in gang racketeering case. Now, just for our entertainment, let's take a quick look at who we're talking about, just so we can remember, in case it slipped your mind. We're talking about this dude right here. This dude dressed up in all pink, wearing some pink hot pants. That's right, pink hot pants. Skin tight, you can see his meat. It's not cool. Unless this is the 80s and he's Eddie Murphy doing Raw and he has amazing jokes and we can kind of forgive it. But this doesn't appear to be the 80s and he damn sure ain't Eddie Murphy. Apparently, he's a gang leader who wears hot pants. I don't quite believe that he's, the head of a highly organized criminal enterprise, but hell, stranger things have happened. Anyways, we're going to get into it. Shout out to Lil Jimmy supporting the work again, and shout out to the real men who stand up and pay what you owe. Lil Jimmy writes, any more tips on how to be great at networking? Peace to the Saints. Yes, I do have 2 tips for you. Tip number 1 is have something remarkable about you. It makes it easy for others to start a conversation. You should have a floral necktie or a very funky blazer, something that gives people a way to have a conversation. You should be the best dressed, best looking person there. Intergender networking is generally more effective, especially if you're doing it with older women. They don't perceive you to be a threat in terms of, you're trying to make a romantic advance on them, and they're more likely to engage you in a longer conversation. Secondly, you should always exchange contact information, but take the initiative to be the first one to reach out.
Carry on. Back
to the guy named Young Thug. Here we go. Young Thug, also known as Thugger, in Atlanta, which we know what goes on in Atlanta. Rapper Young Thug, accused by prosecutors of co-founding. I didn't know you found gangs. It sounds so legitimate. You found corporations. Apparently you found gangs. He's a co-founder of a criminal street gang responsible for violent crimes and using his songs and social media to promote it. is set to go to trial starting Monday. The Atlanta-based artist, I don't really like when they call rappers artists. Let's just call him a rapper, because most of them, when you're mumbling, it ain't qualifying for art. A rapper. Anyways, this guy's a rapper. The Atlanta-based rapper whose given name is Jeffrey Lamar Williams. That's a black name, would you say? Jeffrey Lamar Williams?
Lamar part.
Lamar, right?
Yeah.
I feel like Lamar is very black. So we know he's a black. I'd much rather be called Jeffrey Lamar Williams in court than Young Thug. That's just me, though. Was charged along with more than 24 other people in a sprawling indictment last May. That's a long time ago, isn't it? With more charges added in a second indictment in August. Yeesh. Fellow rapper Gunna, which would be an African-American pronunciation of gunner. Gunner is one who shoots, but apparently he is a snitch, whose real name is Sergio Kitchens. Man got a Latino first name, or shall we say Spanish first name, and an English last name. Diversity. Sergio Kitchens was also charged. Young Thug, 31, began rapping as a teenager and has become tremendously successful, performing around the world and starting his own record label, Young Stoner Life, or YSL. These young boys, and he's not even a young boy to me, we're damn near the same age, but these young boys are real goofballs. So what's a stoner? A stoner's a drug addict. His record label is called Young Stoner Life, which is to say the lifestyle of a drug addict. And this is something he's proud of and wants to represent this as his label. Very strange, but it really points to the demonic nature of these persons that the masses follow. Quite sick and sad.
Okay, we have St. Michael said he's spitting. Peace to the saints.
Appreciate you, Saint. Thank you for the support.
On PayPal, we have Linus said, thoughts on what's recently happened with Andrew Tate's case with Vice, more false accusations, and more leftist news outlets saying that the lover boy method is sex trafficking.
Curious. Well, I do have an article lined up for Tate, but I don't have the specific take that Vice did. So if you want to send us a link, feel free to send us a link to an article or something else.
Carry on.
Artists on his label are considered part of the slime family. Just imagine, what is slime? What is a slime ball? Slime ball is an insult that, women used to use for men back in the day. Oh, he's a slime ball. I think it's like the 1980s version of creeper, right? He's a creeper, he's a slime ball. This is generally something you don't want to be called. Why the blacks like to degrade themselves? I think this is a reflection of the lack of self-worth. They call themselves nigga, which is a Southern pronunciation, or shall we say mispronunciation of the word with the Nigger. And they say this word, which is a pejorative. It's a negative word. And they say this about one another. This is something that hints at the subconscious self-hatred and self-degradation. And this is what we observe with Young Thug, calling himself by the pejorative thug. Furthermore, calling himself a stoner, which is true, but also negative. And then further saying he's a part of the slime family. I hope you all are understanding the linguistic trend we're observing and know that language is expressive of reality, but it's also constructive of reality, which is to say that some people say you can speak things into existence, and he keeps on saying he's a slime ball, slime life, thug, all of these negative things. It seems as though it is caught up with him. And let me encourage you to be thoughtful, or rather deeply consider the thoughts you have, the words you speak, and the life you lead, for it might lead you to where he is, which is in the pen. Now, his compilation album called Slime Language 2 rose to #1 on the charts in April 2021. Wow, that's amazing. I wouldn't know. I don't pay attention to stuff like this. He co-wrote the hit This Is America with Childish Gambino, which became the first hip-hop track to win the Song of the Year Grammy in 2019. I don't even know what that song is. Wow, I don't know what's going on. His hits include Stoner, okay, and Best Friend. I don't know if I've heard of either of them. Features his squeaky, high-pitched vocals. I think I can sign off on that description. His voice is less than appealing. But prosecutors say YSL also has a darker connection. a violent street gang called Young Slime Life, founded by Young Thug and two others in 2012, and affiliated with National Bloods Gang. I think they just should have maybe had blood in the singular, but whatever. The alleged gang members named in the indictment are accused of committing violent crimes, including murder, shootings, and carjackings. People still stealing cars? I thought there was like too much technology to steal cars. That's like stealing a stagecoach. That's like really old-fashioned stuff right there.
We have Money Mindset said, peace to the saints. What segment would you consider for personal finance? Constantly soaking up the ism daily. The immense work ethic you're displaying motivates many. Also, the bars are on replay tuition.
You dig, in a real way. So he writes, what segment would you consider for personal finance?
I'm not sure.
Do you think he's asking me what conference footage he might buy to become a bit more keen on that? If you're asking me for an educational resource on personal finance, I recommend, I think it was conference 4, episode 1.
It will say.
Oh, it'll say personal finance. Yeah. So if you go to thesassin.com, THESASN.com, and you go through the shop link, you'll see the conference footage. Look at conference 4, and there'll be one that says personal finance. It specifically talks about personal finance. Thank you.
Someone asked what your shirt says.
This is actually a sweatshirt. It reads, I identify as a white woman. You know, you can identify as anything nowadays, so I'm a white woman. The reason I like to identify as a white woman, when I complain, people listen. And everyone should be scared of me because who knows, I might just hashtag me to you if you don't go along with me. So be afraid.
Where can they get the shirt?
You can get this sweatshirt. I think it's linked in the description, actually.
Okay.
Oh, it's linked in the description of the last video. So would you go to the last video description, copy the full link, and then post it in here?
Yeah.
Carrying on. And if you need help, I can help you find that. But anyways, Young Thug's violent criminal gang has participated in carjackings. That's very old-fashioned. To collect money for the gang, burnish its reputation, and expand its power and territory. Curious that you would need to collect money for the gang when the leader of the gang is the CEO of a record label and has top records. Curious. In fact, it's curious that you would even need a gang unless you are a negative person who's mentally impoverished and is for some reason bathing himself in negativity and in bad company. It really hurts my heart, but this is something that he's brought upon himself. I'm not saying I wish jail time upon him because I really don't, but certainly this is of his own making. And one thing I want to warn all of you is that many of the things we suffer in life are of our own making. If you have a spouse you don't like, that was your choice. If you're suffering addiction, that was your choice. Whatever challenge you have, it was probably your choice if you're an adult, and it is also your choice to make a change. But because it's your choice to make a change, that does not mean that you cannot get help, and I do think you should seek help.
Hey, I'm working on getting it linked in the video, but it's in the chat. So anyone that wants to purchase it, Maurice said, I'm aware that to work, I wish a broad would call HR. So Maurice, if you want it, it's in the chat.
Maurice, you a goon on everything, man. Because according to their idea that you can be whatever you want, I'm a white woman carrying on. And you don't even have to say anything. You dig? Just let this shirt talk for you. Or sweatshirt. I'm messing with you out here. Carrying on.
Super chats.
The indictment includes rap lyrics that prosecutors allege are overt acts, quote, in furtherance of the conspiracy. Now, truth be told, in our court system, it's so contrived and it's actually so wicked, our justice system in America, that it appears to be designed such that we don't understand how to utilize our own court system. We don't understand the language that's occurring in our own court system, which is curious because the court system is a government institution. And most of you, like myself, were educated in government institutions called public schools. So how is it that the public schools did not educate us on how to understand and utilize our own legal and political systems? It was by design. Carrying on. A line from a song, They Say, Young Thug released on YouTube, quote, I'm in the VIP and I got that pistol on my hip. You praying that you live. I'm praying that I hit. I feel like that's so very general. How could you indict a rapper saying something like that? because much of rap music is about murder, unfortunately. And rappers are often talking about being in the club, so much so that there's a song called In the Club. Furthermore, being in the VIP is something you would expect as a result of their status, particularly their status in music. So I think that this is very flimsy circumstantial evidence. And if his lawyer is not able to dispel at least this line as a piece of evidence, I think he's really not worth his keep, because this is so general that it's ridiculous. Furthermore, we would never indict Steven Spielberg, a filmmaker, for depicting violence in his films. We never assume that this is operating in his personal life, but we find that there are different standards held for those who are in film versus those who are in music, held for older white guys versus young black guys. But let us not make excuses, because we can all say that Steven Spielberg ain't out here trying to run gangs. He ain't talking about violence in his personal life. He's not making foolish social media posts. He's not associating with known felons and known gang members. He's not doing all of those other things that put a bad spotlight on Young Thug. So that context is important to have. You're caught up?
Yeah.
All right. Another of his lyrics quoted in the indictment reads, quote, "I never kill anybody, but I got something to do with that body," end quote. I've never been one to think that Young Thug has bars, but I kind of like that line. I like that line right there. I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. That's boss talk. I can appreciate that. Me personally, I can appreciate that. The original indictment charged 28 people. That's a lot of people. I can't think of 28 people that I trust. I cannot think of 28 people I trust. I'd hate to get indicted with 28 people. Because even of the 28 people that I trust, I can't think of 8 people that won't crack. You see what I'm saying? It's all bad. Charged with the original indictment charged 28 people with conspiracy to violate Georgia's racketeer influenced and corrupt organizations, or RICO law. I wonder, as a corrupt organization, does the government qualify for this one? Because surely they should be on trial. Ooh, they are corrupt. Included other charges against many of them. 14 of them are set to proceed to trial, which starts Monday and is expected to last months. I wouldn't be surprised if it lasts more than a year. 8 others, including Gunna, have already taken plea deals in the case. And 4 of whom don't have lawyers, and 2 who haven't been arrested will be tried later. Now, one thing I would like to point out, generally speaking, you're going to get snitched on. Full stop. Anytime you have any amount of wealth, and some of you who have wealth have experienced this, and some of you who will be growing in your wealth, unfortunately, will experience this. People who are around you, whether they're family, friends, or even strangers, for some reason, because you have money and they're near you, they expect your money to become their money. And if you're catching a case with these persons, they expect your money to become their money, and they expect you to get them private counsel, an attorney, and understandably so, because, you know, that's your crimey. Attorneys are very expensive. Even a multimillionaire would have to be thoughtful about who he's shelling out attorney money for, especially when the case could go on for a year or more. And that's the government's goal. The government wants to stretch out the case as long as possible, because the government has an infinite amount of money and resources, because they steal them from working persons like you and I. But conversely, Young Thug is no longer working. He's not producing new music. His income is probably hurting right now, and his money has a limit. And so the longer the case goes on, the more he's going to shell out for private counsel. And certainly, not only does your expense include your criminal lawyer, which is probably a criminal lawyer team in his case, and it should be, but it also includes experts that you have to hire, experts in forensics, experts in psychology, and, you know, all these other things, experts in jury selection, different things. So it's very expensive. So it would be great for you to pay for your crimey's attorneys. It would be smart, in fact, in as much as that makes them less likely to feel resentment towards you and to snitch on you. But then you're reducing resources you can expend on yourself. So it's a very delicate situation. And these are the things that people from the outside don't understand. And what you should also know, whether it's criminal or civil cases, lawyers often won't even take a case, if there's not enough money in it. They need to know, like, hey, you're going to spend this amount of money with me before I even take the case. And also, I want you to know justice has a price. You know, there are situations where I was going to sue someone and my attorney said to me, Marquett, you would spend more money suing this person to get justice than you would just letting it go. You're going to lose money suing even if you win the case. And that is the strange, peculiar nature of the American injustice system. So I want you to be aware. And that's also why you have to have extrajudicial, I think it's called, or extra legal approaches to getting things right, which is to say, people do you dirty, you got to have some other methods to, you heard me, get them to behave. Because sometimes the court system is not accessible to rich people, everyday people, or really to anyone unless you're actually in the government. That's how bad it is out here. Keeping it a buck with you. Carrying on. The August indictment accuses Young Thug of racketeering conspiracy and participation in criminal street gang activity, as well as drug and gun charges. He has so many charges that it's really astounding. But what's worse is, even if you take these charges independently, they're all very serious charges. If you've ever learned anything about drug cases, especially if you're talking about hard drugs, whether we're talking about synthetics like fentanyl or, pure cocaine or heroin, you're looking at serious charges that are often correlated to the amount of product that you're trying to distribute. And if you're looking at a criminal enterprise, theoretically, it should be a significant amount of product, which means that you will be in jail for a long time. And that's just based on the drug dealing charges, not to mention the organized crime, the murders, and things like that. So it's very much so a very sad thing they're going up against. They could beat 39 out of 40 charges, and the last charge they didn't beat could land them in jail for 50 years, which is essentially life when you're already 31, as young Thug is. So this is serious stuff, and I surmise he's not going to get off of this scot-free. Even if he was innocent, there's been too much media coverage that the government doesn't want to look bad, like they let a young thug, go free. Wordplay, carrying on. Okay, and thank you to those supporting the work. Maybe this young thug, either this is riveting and people are so riveted they're just focused, or it's not that work. We'll have to figure it out. Let's see. The Young Thug indictment accuses Young Thug of racketeering, conspiracy, and participating in criminal street gang activity, as well as drug and gun charges. Gun charges, you can get around those. T.I., for example, Snoop Dogg, for example, they've gotten around gun charges. A lot of rappers have gotten around gun charges. One of 11 siblings, that's a lot, with 6 children of his own, that's also a lot. Young Thug has deep roots in his native Atlanta and works tirelessly at his art and other legitimate, lawful business ventures. His lawyer said in a May court filing that unsuccessfully sought his release on bond. Now, my question for you all, if you were Young Thug and you got released on bond, would you run? I would. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this on live just in case. No, I wouldn't. I would go to court. Remind me to take this down afterward. But look, if he got out on bond, he should dip because it's just too many charges.
Hey, MH said, peace to the Saints. Had to rewind it back to the beginning to not miss any part of this game and insight.
In a real way, appreciate it. Shout out to Marcos.
We have directed by Jabrizi said, peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints. Pleasure to see the gentleman. Just had a consultation with Jabrizi yesterday. The man is creating some very fascinating tech, so keep an eye out for that upcoming.
On Cash App, we have Jaden says supporting the work.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
He just came. He was on the last live as well, supporting.
Came back. He's a real one. And thank you guys, because this is basically what lets me know, like, okay, this is of interest to you. I never get so arrogant that I think I know what is of interest to you. So I just try to assess it based on support.
Maurice is back and said Young Thug refers to his guns as a sporting goods store that rhymes with sticks. Dude is sus and guilty in my book. Oh, dude is terribly sus. I mean, look, dude is tremendously sus. I just got a text from my favorite restaurant. Actually, my favorite restaurant just texted me and said, "Where you been at?" Isn't that crazy? That's insane. Yeah, dude is sus. But here's the thing. The good news for Young Thug is if he's as sus as we think he is, getting locked up is not a major problem for him, right? Okay, we have Lamar came in by a Cash App. He said tuition, more lies of you kicking pimpin'.
Right. I can dig it. Sir, yes, sir.
Jabri just sent $500 on Cash App.
He said what?
He sent $500.
Wait, did he break the record?
And he said, for consultation, thank you.
Oh, wow. This man is a baller. Hold on, let me just... Baller alert. Jabrizi Magic, 500 beans, big boss talk, prosperity. And I want to say, truth be told, I want you guys all to be on that level. I really do. I really do. You know, I want all of my guys to be prosperous like that. And one of the things I love about having a good friend like that is that we can enjoy the same things. You know, I want you guys all to be winning. Shout out to the bosses. Shout out to the ballers. Shout out to Generous Man. Appreciate you, Saint.
Money Mindset said just caught that recommended conference footage.
Word to Big
at
Bird.
a stage where I'm taking personal finance. I mean, his name's Money Mindset.
Right.
So,
Right.
On PayPal, we have Rick said, peace to the saints, showing support for the work as I do not read or watch the news. Thank you for keeping the trending news segment, just paying what I owe. Appreciate
you. And I learned from my mentor when I was in Baltimore, Maryland, an older gentleman, older black man, a real mentor. He took a liking to me because of some of the work I was doing on the volunteer side. I created a couple of programs for young men in Baltimore City. At a couple churches there. And he took a liking to me and he said, hey, I am going to be your mentor. I didn't ask him. He said, I'm going to be your mentor. And one thing he told me, he says, you need to read the news every day. This is where power lies. This is where you hear about who's running for office. These are the politicians. These are the events you have to know about. These are the events you should be creating. These are the events that you should be influencing. This is where power is. And one thing he told me, he said, hey, his wife was a senator, by the way. His wife was a senator. He said, hey, we even read the Jewish Times. We're not Jewish. We don't live in that neighborhood, but we read the Baltimore Jewish Times because we want to know what's going on and we want to know who we need to be friends with. This is where the power players are. And I never forgot that. And I always stuck with that. And one thing you'll know about me if you read my book, The Black Box, which you can find on Amazon, every time I got a wise word from someone who was in advance of me, whether they were senior in age or significantly wealthier, I always listened attentively and then I executed and I stuck to the script that they gave me. If I could make some improvements after I got enough experience, I made improvements, but I really stuck to the script when I got good game. And if you read my book, there's a chapter about a gentleman I call Nick the Hustler who taught me how to hustle. And he gave me the game and I stuck to the script. He also gave the game to my homie and my homie ain't stick to the script. And the difference between how our lives have elevated and in his case, he's devolved is based on us sticking to the script when you get good information from experienced men. Carrying on.
We have Walton just purchased some stuff from Man and Woman brand.
Word.
He got 2 of the beanies.
Wow.
And he got a short sleeve t-shirt.
Shout out to Walton. Walton dripped up. The drip game is tremendo with Walton. That man balling too. Shout out. All right. By the way, I got a funny text message to share with you later. Oh my goodness. Shout out. Carrying on. Attached to that filing were letters from then a dozen. This is a typo. What? There's a typo in the news article. This is the kind of stuff that, one, is disappointing to see a typo in a news article because I know it's created by a large organization and they have writers, copy editors, all these different persons that should have proofread this. There's a typo in the article. It's disappointing. But I also want to point this out to you guys because one thing I noticed when my mindset grew to the appropriate level, when I was a young man, I did not believe there could be typos in books or in articles. As an adult, I realized that the persons who write books, the persons who write movies, the persons who produce all of these things, Dr. Fauci, all these different people, they're human beings of flesh and blood like I am. Hence, I will not look at them as though they are God or godly. I will not trust them because they are in an authority position. I will question, is this true? Just like I would question anyone else on the street because they too are fallible. I just want you guys to remember that. Shout out to Little Cash Kid.
Yeah, so St. R.E. and Little Cash Kid shared the Black Box Amazon link.
Appreciate it.
Mind and Soul said he read chapters 2 to 5 today. A wonderful work.
Thank you.
For those of you that have purchased on Amazon, if you can go leave a review, that'd be great.
That's true. Yeah, let people know what you think.
We have Carlos sent $50,
Baller alert.
and he comes in consistent as well.
Indeed, he
He
does.
said, "Peace to the saints."
Peace to the saints, indeed. Attached to that filing were letters from more than a dozen music industry executives who have worked with Young Thug. They describe him as one of the most successful hip hop artists in the world, a dedicated father, blah, 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 blah. Okay, they're saying favorable things for their business partner. I get it. In addition to specific charges, the August indictment includes a wide-ranging list of 191 acts that prosecutors say were committed between 2013 and 2022, nearly 10 years. You take a 10-year period of anybody's life, you can find a crime. I promise you, the penal code is infinite. You can find a crime. If you look at 10 years of anybody's life, you're going to find something. Oh, the government is going hard for this one.
Heels in sent tuition via cash app.
Shout out to Heels In. I almost wish we were keeping some data to see who is the most consistent. There's some guys that I know always are supporting the work every single time. Yes, indeed. In addition to, but we know Jabrizi has the record right now, $500 super chat. Yeah. He has the record, and before it was Charles. No, it was Charles had the record before that. Yep, he had the record when we were in Medellin. No, Guatape in Colombia. Yeah, indeed. Charles had that record in Colombia. Charles Easton. And I'm saying his full name because he had his full name on the super chat. Okay. And I want to show him his respect. Okay. Charles Easton had the $380 super chat. And Jabrizi just bossed up $500. That's impressive. Carrying on. In addition to the specific charges, the August indictment includes a wide-ranging list of 191 acts that prosecutors say were committed between 2013 and 2022 as a part of the alleged RICO conspiracy to further the gang's interests. Included in that list is an allegation that Young Thug threatened in July 2015 to shoot a security guard who was trying to get him to leave an Atlanta area mall. First off, is threatening someone a crime though? Dang, if threatening someone's a crime, we all got to be in jail. No, seriously, right? You ever heard a woman threaten a guy? I'm going to kill you. Right? You've heard that, right? We threaten people all the time. Threatening is a crime. We're all criminals. Okay, so that's how they plan it. Okay, cool. So basically, you can't get mad in America and say something out of anger because that's a threat and that's a crime. Okay, understood.
Okay, we have David said, blessings and tuition, peace to the saints, actually getting to catch a live, keep giving, saint, your work is appreciated by all.
Thank you very much, David. That really does mean a lot. He might be Polish based on that last name. Shout out to the Polish Saints. You dig? Yeah, I'm a big fan of Poland. Going to be heading back as soon as the weather is pleasant again. So he threatened a mall cop. Now, generally speaking, not wise to threaten people. And another thing I often talk about is hierarchy. You know, it doesn't really look good for a boss even to be having a conversation with like a mall cop. You don't even need to have that conversation. That's number one. Number two, when you have a lot of power, you don't need to speak threats. You dig? Like, they should already know what it is. And then number three, is this number 3 or number 4? I'm tripping. I think it's number 3. If you're moving correctly as a boss, you should have people around you that can deal with these kind of insignificant situations. As a boss, when you're not in a ruler mindset, when you're in a peon or a peasant mindset, you involve yourself in minor squabbles and these things will trip you up. And that's why if you're in the member-only Discord, I was speaking to like, we're going to create a process to where when you have certain little dirt bags you got to deal with, you can literally pay a small fee and we'll have a whole unit within the Assassin to deal with that dirt bag so you can keep on working. You dig? Keep on focusing on your paper, man. Keep on pursuing your goals. And you can have some folks who have a little more spare time who specialize in this stuff to deal with them dirt bags. You dig? But this is petty. What does it look like? You're a multi-platinum recording artist, CEO of a label, and you're arguing with a mall cop. That's petty. And may we all pray for myself not to do these kind of things because it can catch any one of us. Lord, just imagine me arguing with a mall cop. That's ridiculous. What is this guy thinking? He arguing with mall cops?
Okay, we have Eric said, quick question, Saint.
Wait, hold on. He about to go to jail for being stupid. This boy about to go to jail for being stupid, not even being a criminal. Go ahead.
Eric said, quick question, Saint. As far as degrees are concerned, when you hear information and computer science degree and a computer science degree, is there a difference you hear in that?
I'm going to reread this question, make sure I understand it. Quick question, Saint, period. As far as degrees are concerned, comma, when you hear information and computer science degree and a computer, is there a difference you hear in? Eric, you would have to rewrite that question
So
for me to fully.
Okay, so I say information and computer science degree.
Mhm.
Stop. And then I say computer science degree. Is there a difference?
I see.
That?
I think the computer science part is the most important part. That's number one. Number two, at certain universities, they will pair this degree with information systems, or they'll say something like computer science and electrical engineering. And so there's a different title and pairing. But what you really need to be concerned about is the skill set that you'll be blessed with in that degree. And so in as much as that's the case, you want to look at the required courses that are necessary to get that degree and make sure that they align to the job you want.
Carry on.
Thank you. On numerous occasions, he and others are alleged to have possessed various illegal drugs that they intended to distribute. I don't know if I believe that, but I don't know how long he's been famous. If he was famous in 2012, it would be strange to be a drug dealer while you're also a famous rapper. I think that would be weird. What I think the government is seeking to do is to claim that he's the head of this criminal organization. So though he was not selling drugs hand to hand, he was the leader of an organization that was benefiting from the proceeds of crime. And in this particular case, the profits of drug dealing, which is a difficult case to beat. Because if you're Young Thug and you grew up in the hood, like I grew up in the hood, I for sure have friends who are currently doing illegal things. It's easy for the prosecutor to say, hey, this guy's doing illegal things. He's your friend. He's a part of Slime Life. He's a part of your organization, your record label. He's one of your rappers, or he's on your security staff. You are benefiting from what he's doing. That's hard to escape. You know, you grow up with these people. I mean, I think that the government has an easy way to utilize these laws like the RICO statute to basically utilize your family associations and your friendships against you, not realizing that these kinds of laws are really written in ways that are very discriminatory and disadvantageous to those who grow up in poverty. Because undoubtedly, if you grow up in poverty, you're among the lumpen class, as Marx describes it, which is essentially the criminal class. You know, your mother might be a criminal, your father might be a criminal, uncle, aunt, grandparents, your classmates. These are the people you know. So being that you give them a job, you're actually doing them a favor. You're trying to lift them out of the mud. But if Young Thug gave them a job and they're additionally doing illegal things, now you're saying they're officially a part of Young Thug's organization, and they're doing illegal things. So we're going to lie and say that these illegal things are also benefiting Young Thug and going back, even if they can't trace it directly. That's the challenge with defeating a RICO statute. And they're designed to be so general and broad that they can basically trip up anyone. That's how they're designed. And I'll tell you guys the history on this stuff. They were really trying to take down the American mob, the Italians, the mafia. And they really, because they were so well organized and they had infiltrated so much of government, from judges to policing to unions, etc., that they needed these kind of far-reaching statutes like the RICO statute to take down the big Italian mobsters. And now they're utilizing this to basically take down anybody else that they view to be a similar threat. But truth be told, is a black street gang run by a guy named Young Thug as dangerous as a highly organized international criminal enterprise that goes back many decades, run by white men who, no, it's not as dangerous. No, it's not. But still, they're about to suffer under the laws that were created to take down those big, monstrous, powerful organizations. Carrying on. And if someone wants me to carry on to the next news clipping, feel free to send in your super chat. Hey, Marquett, I'm ready for the next piece of news. I'm just going through this because I'm presuming that this stuff is of interest to the audience. The indictment also accuses alleged gang associates of trying to kill a rapper, YFN Lucci. I have heard that name. I don't know that I'm familiar with the music. In the Fulton County Jail. They tried to take my boy out in jail. That's really gangster, because when you body somebody in jail, you're for sure pretty much about to go down for that. You're pretty much going down. You're bodying them in a place that has cameras, tremendous number of snitches who have great incentive to snitch. What's your incentive? Let me out of jail early. So if you try to get somebody bodied in jail, it's really brave and brazen. You have a lot of juice, and you have people who are willing to catch bodies when they know there's going to be consequences. Woo, that's tough right there.
Money Mindset said, I kept leaving my engineering jobs thinking my colleagues were no-life corporation slaves. Your game on hierarchy humbled me. I'm back getting paid, being proud of my position, catching up on tuition. Peace to the saints.
Peace to the saints. And you know what? When we find and when we respect where we fit in, we'll be happier, we'll be more satisfied. And what we have to grow to understand is that not everything is meant for everyone. And sometimes it's just not your time. And other times, you don't want those problems. You know, there's some problems you don't want. Yes, with fame, you might walk down the street and say, like, hey, the Saint, the Sinner, I love your stuff. And also, you might go to a restaurant and somebody is like, oh, I know, dude. And they're going to do something greasy to your food and you're never going to know because they're a hater in disguise. So there's some problems you don't want. But learning to be happy where we are is the greatest thing any of us can do. So I appreciate you sharing that positive message. It's a great reminder for all of us. So he tried to get YFN Lucci bodied in jail. That's super gangster. And it says that an alleged gang associate shot at a bus in 2015 that was carrying rapper Lil Wayne. I thought Lil Wayne and Young Thug were friends. But yes, in the entertainment industry, friendships are fickle. It's funny. I feel like Lil Wayne gets shot at and done greasy a lot. He even had an issue in my hood when I was in high school. No kidding. They tried to rob him. Gunna pled guilty last month to 1 count of conspiracy to violate the RICO Act, entering an Alford plea, which means he maintains his innocence but recognizes that it's in his best interest to plead guilty. And these are the kind of games and scams we have in our legal system. It has been said that laws are like spider webs. They only entangle the weak among us, you know, the strong, which is to say those who are financially empowered or in government. You just rip through the laws like spider webs. You dig? It's really sad how the legal system just shows you how much of a scam it is. Oh, you're a rich rapper? Yeah, we'll give you an Alford plea. We'll let you out of jail, even though we know you're guilty. Oh, you got a pardon from the president. You have friends in high places. Yeah, you get to go free. The legal system's a scam. Oh, we're trusting another known criminal and known felon who's snitching and ratting. We're going to take the word of a dishonest criminal just so that we can win our case. Yeah, thank you, American legal system. Super scamalicious. That's why you guys are wise to find you a group to get into that's going to have your back and support you. Huh? Don't be out here dolo, you dig? You better get with this assassin and this ism. He said in a statement released by his lawyer that when he became affiliated with YSL in 2016, he did not consider it a gang, but rather a group of people from Metro Atlanta who had common interests and artistic aspirations. Gunna also stressed that he has not cooperated or agreed to testify for or against any party in the case. No comment from me. In court, before the judge accepted the plea, when a prosecutor said that YSL is a music label and a gang, and that Gunna had knowledge that its members or associates had committed crimes in furtherance of the gang, Gunna responded, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." He was sentenced to 5 years with 1 year commuted to time served and the balance suspended, which is to say he got a get out of jail free card. As a black guy, do you get out of jail free cards without doing something? Highly doubt it. He also must testify truthfully if called by any party in the case and must do 500 hours of community service, which is nonsense, including talking to young people about the hazards and immorality of gangs and gang violence, like a rapper knows about morality. The other 2 alleged co-founders of the YSL gang, Walter Murphy, never heard of him, and oh my gosh, the boy name is Trontavious. That sounds like a new pathogen. Get me a mask. The Trontavious virus is out. Oh, it's the Trontavious variant. Oh, this nigga Trontavious sound like a goddamn scientific, a goddamn mutation of COVID. Trontavious. Shout out to black people. We have unique names. Trontavious Stevens. Why can I imagine what his mom looked like? Why? Trontavious Stevens also pled guilty last month to one count of conspiracy to violate the RICO Act. Murphy was sentenced to 10 years, yikes, with 1 year commuted to time served and 9 years of probation. These boys getting some deals. Stevens also got 10 years with 2 years commuted to time served and 8 years of probation. These boys is getting Black Friday deals out here. How they do that? That's amazing. Boys getting doorbuster Black Friday deals. That sounds strange. I'm suspicious. Anyone else suspicious? Carrying on, next news clipping, we have subway train collision in Mexico, in La Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, which I've been there. Lovely place, very well developed. And I just love Mexican people because I grew up with Mexican people. I grew up with blacks and Mexicans. That's pretty much it. So those are my people. I wanted to read this article because I thought it was strange. Subway train collision. My first thought was, how do two trains run into each other? That's weird. Who messed this up? I was curious. 1 killed, 57 injured. I feel like if I'd have been on the train and it crashed, I would have been the one laughing at the end. I don't know. It just seems like I would have, for some reason, found this funny. But I would have also been trying to sue the hell out of whoever was operating this train. But then again, you're in Mexico. Who knows if you're going to get any money? I don't know. But in America, that would have been a payday. Would you agree?
Yeah.
That would have been a payday. Mexico City, La Ciudad de Mexico. 2 subway trains collided between 2 stations Saturday in Mexico City, killing at least 1 person, injuring 41. Now, here's the thing. I don't believe in karma, but I also always get curious as to why were you the 1 person who died? You got 100 people didn't get a scratch. 41 people got injured. Maybe they was texting when it happened. They were texting, they weren't holding on to a pole. 1 guy died. What were you doing? Were you frail? What? How did you die? No one else died. I'm just curious. Karma probably ain't real, but if it is real, you did something. Mayor Claudia Scheinbaum, she's Jewish. I actually have a Jewish friend in Mexico City. Shout out to the homie. But she's for sure Jewish. And most people don't know, most people outside of Mexico, probably Mexicans as well, there are a significant number of Mexican Jews. And obviously the mayor of Mexico City is Jewish, which is quite curious. Mayor Claudia Scheinbaum, which is a Jewish surname, said on her Twitter account that the accident happened on line 3 of the capital's metro system without specifying the cause of the crash between the Potrero and the La Raza stations. Why am I thinking about churros right now? Why?
Because they were really good in Mexico City.
Yes, they were.
Reynaldo just became a Patreon.
Shout out to Reynaldo. He felt inspired by the piece on Mexico. He was like, I need to join this great organization. Shout out to the folks who support the work on patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. You really are the core of this movement. I appreciate you, especially those who have been around for a long time. Scheinbaum said 1 woman was killed, okay, and 57 people injured. This article is trash. I read earlier that 41 people were injured. Am I wrong? This article is utter trash. The quality of human life has declined since this scandemic. The quality of work outputs, the quality of so many things. This article is garbage. It just said 41 people were injured. Then it said 57 people were injured. This is nonsense. Let me just scan through real quickly and let's see if they actually gave an explanation, which is why we're actually reading the article, which is to say who messed up. Let's see. An electrician who was on the train at the time said he felt lucky because he had decided at the last minute to enter the next to last car. Okay, yeah, sure. Anyway, scrolling down. It is not telling. It says in May 2021, an elevated section of the subway system collapsed. Gosh, causing 26 deaths and injuring 100 people. So it looks like they're trying to blame decaying infrastructure, which is to say, if you're paying taxes in Mexico, especially La Ciudad, apparently your tax money is not being used to refresh the infrastructure, which is one of the major charges of government. Maintain infrastructure, maintain a reasonable standing army. But what happens is our government start putting money into things that are unnecessary, like the war in Ukraine. And then you got people dying because the subway collapses, because the infrastructure is old, or because the technology's not been updated. There should never be an instance where two trains crash into each other. You don't even need technology. You just need somebody watching. Say, hey, bro, slow down. Slow down. That's all you need. That would have prevented that whole thing. But in the absence of somebody who can see, or maybe a little bit of technology, I got a technology on my car. When you're about to crash into something that says beep, 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 why you ain't got that on the train that has hundreds of people on it? Ludicrous. Pathetic. Next news clipping. You see, I'm doing it from around the world. This is an interesting one to me. 6-year-old, how many years? 6-year-old shoots teacher in Virginia classroom. Now, look, I believe in the right to bear arms. I really do. But I feel like 6 years old is a little early, even for me. Even for me, that's a little early. In Virginia, well, that seems like the kind of place where such a thing would happen now, doesn't it? Let's see what happened. First off, I want to know what disrespectful this teacher then said to get them clapped, because they had to have said or did something. This kid was not pleased with him. We're going to find out. 6-year-old shoots teacher. Norfolk, Virginia. Norfolk, I think that's how they say it. A 6-year-old student shot and wounded a teacher at his school in Virginia during an altercation. An altercation? Inside a first grade classroom Friday. Police and school officials in the city of Newport News said. Terribly written. Why are people not able to write in English? This is amazing. Experts said a school shooting involved a 6-year-old is extremely rare. Why would they even write that sentence? Like, we don't know that. That was dumb. I want to know who wrote this article. No, seriously, Saints. The level of the society is lowering rapidly. You can hear it in the article. Someone just wrote in this article, a 6-year-old shooting someone is extremely rare. Duh. Was that necessary to write that in the article? Good Lord. What planet are we on? Okay, experts said a school shooting involving a 6-year-old is extremely rare. I just got a headache immediately. It took an expert say. It took an expert to say that. Okay, I feel like I know a black bum in front of a liquor store in Pasadena that could have told me that. Although not unheard of, while Virginia law limits the ways in which a child that age can be punished for such a crime. No students were injured in the shooting. Okay, this kid got aimed. I mean, at least he was trained. No students at Rich Neck Elementary School. How do you have a rich neck? I've seen some poor necks. You know, when the back of their neck be blacker than the rest of their body, that's a poor neck. Or when the back of their neck be red, that's a red neck. You see what I'm saying? I've seen a poor neck, never seen a rich neck. I might probably need to look at my own. That's probably why I ain't seen it, because I would need a mirror to see it. Anyways, none of the kids at Rich Neck Elementary School were injured. Shout out to this 6-year-old kid. He got aimed. The teacher, a woman in her 30s, she must have been a disrespectful feminist. She's a disrespectful feminist. Suffered life-threatening injuries. Her condition had improved somewhat by late afternoon. Quote, we did not have a situation where someone was going around the school shooting, end quote. We already know that. They just said he shot the teacher. Drew said the student and teacher had known each other in a classroom setting. Okay, so there's some history here.
Major Minded Soul said you were struggling to swing first at 6. This boy shot first. A real saint.
Hey, look, man. His fighting spirit is strong. His fight, and look, he ain't taking nothing from nobody. He look, ain't nobody disrespecting little buddy. Wee. This boy better drop a mixtape immediately. You know how hard his mixtape would be? Do you know how gangster his mixtape would be? When I was 6, I shot my teacher in elementary. So don't nobody mess with me. Because eventually they know if you fight fire with fire, then the sun's my only enemy. Can't nobody limit me. I could hit you with a punch that would kill you instantly. You know, these just some bars I could imagine he might say in his mixtape. I'm sorry, I'm just so nasty off the top. I just come off the top like a loose toupee. You dig? You dig what I'm saying? Anyways, carrying on. Please forgive the delivery. I was just playing with it. That ain't my delivery. You know, my delivery smooth like velvet. Anyways, he said the boy had a handgun in the classroom and investigators were trying to figure out where he obtained it. The police chief did not provide further details about the shooting, the altercation, or what happened inside the school. Well, that's funny because that's what I was reading the article for, is to hear about that, the details. I don't want to hear what the experts have to say. Experts say 6-year-olds don't shoot people every day. Oh, thanks, expert. Let's see. Quote, my whole class was crying, end quote, said Carlos, a 9-year-old. I bet they were. Look, I'd have probably been that little kid, like, not crying, though, because that was not taught in my household. But I would have been shocked for sure. Like, damn, bro, you done shot the teacher, my boy. That's different. Like, if you ever asked me to, like, trade one of your Lunchable, you know how every Lunchable comes with a little, like a Kit Kat or a Snickers? If this kid ever would have asked me to trade his Kit Kat for my Snickers, I'd be like, bruh, that's all you. Take it. It's all you. We good. We good. Man, he brought the clapper to school and busted that. Woo-wee. They got a video? Nah, we got to watch this video just real quick, though. We need this video in our life. Here we go. Real quick, though. The boy then brought the clapper to the school. Let me maximize this. You could tell they're really out in the woods. Like, his school is in the woods. This is what you mean when you live in the middle of nowhere. You on Tinder, you got to set your distance to like 900 miles. Carrying on. Why is this maximized? Nobody want to see all that. Here we go. Dang, you can hear the chopper in the air. That was unnecessary. Got people standing outside. I want to know, like, after
the individual is in custody.
He called him the individual. This boy said the individual is in custody. Bro, you talking about a toddler, man. Just say the 6-year-old is, we didn't put him in kid jail.
Stopped. I was freaking out, very nervous, just wondering, was that one person my son? But he's okay. He's not in first grade, no. Oh. It didn't say the grade in the text, so.
The soldier that showed up in uniform. This is crazy. They just show people walking. That was the most unnecessarily dumb, useless video I've ever seen in my life. Good thing I'm doing the news reporting, because all these people who think they're doing news reporting are not doing a good job at it. Can somebody reach out to Fox and get me a job? I need to do this news. The news needs me. Next one. And this one, I like the headline because I didn't really understand what it was about. And sometimes our responsibility is to understand. It says U.S. Appeals Court blocks ban on rapid fire bump stocks. And I know what the U.S. Appeals Court is. I know what blocking is. I know what banning is. And I know what rapid fire is. But I don't know what bump stocks are. And so I said I should try to figure this out and see if maybe this affects my life.
Okay, we have Deontay just became a patron.
Shout out to Deontay, man. We all welcome Deontay warmly to this thing of ours, to this family. So I'm trying to figure out what bump stocks are. Let me actually give you the picture so you can see as well. This is a bump stock, apparently. And the news is important because it can teach you also about how to make a bag. So, for example, if you're a stock owner, it says U.S. appeals court blocks ban on rapid fire bump stocks. So, okay, it blocked the ban. So this will not be banned. But say it was banned. Well, that's going to affect the share price. You might want to take a short position, which is to say that the stock is going to decline in value. And that's why you read the news to figure out how to make your financial moves. So I need to make a track. Read the news to figure out your financial moves. Just boss talk. My next album is just high level thinking, boss talk. Carrying on. New Orleans. A Trump administration ban on bump stocks. Oh, Trump banned it. Okay. Devices that enable shooter to rapidly fire multiple rounds from semi-automatic weapons after an initial trigger pull was struck down Friday by a federal appeals court in New Orleans. The ban was instituted after a gunman perched in a high-rise hotel using bump stock equipped weapons massacred dozens of people in Las Vegas in 2017. Gun rights advocates have challenged it in court, and apparently they won. So I want to summarize here. One of the worst things you can do is rely on democracy, which is to say the average person. They react to emotions. They don't do well with data, science, and truth. They react to however their emotions have been pushed. So when that shooting happened in Las Vegas, the reaction among the leftists who hate guns and they hate freedom, they said, well, let's utilize this mass shooting in Las Vegas to remove guns' rights or to start to limit them. And so they were able to push through some legislation to ban let's make sure I'm saying it correctly, bump stocks. So they use this to push through legislation to ban bump stocks. They even did this during the Trump administration, and this essentially allows for rapid fire. Apparently, the guns rights guys, the Southerners, they were able to get this overturned. So there you go. If you need to do some clapping, you can do it in rapid action. I think this might be useful for YSL and Young Thug's criminal organization and help them get rid of their enemies faster.
Okay, Deontay that just joined on Patreon. He sent a cash app. He said,
Wow.
Please appreciate the work. Had to join.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Carry on.
And the Saint's name is
Deontay.
Deontay, welcome to the family. And may we all welcome him warmly, which is our way. Carrying on to the next news article. And this one says hunter bear bait ban proposed for Alaska National Preserves. Shouldn't that be natural reserves? Oh, my mama, I feel like that should be natural reserves. Let's see, though. But anyways, my first thought was, who's hunting bear and why? Like, why are you hunting bear? I've never worn a fur coat that was bear. It's not like a fine fur. So that's one reason. Like, why are you hunting bear? Like, they don't have fine fur that I want to wear on my coat. And number two, I've never been at a restaurant and they're like, yeah, we around here serving up that bear meat. I've never eaten bear meat. So why are we hunting bear? That's question one. Then question two, if we must hunt bear, why does it matter what the bait is? So I was curious. In Alaska, now we don't ever go up there. But anyways, bear hunters in Alaska would no longer be able to use bait such as pastries, dog food, or bacon grease. Goodness, the diet of bears these days. Under a proposed rule by the National Park Service on Friday. It's the latest in a dispute over what animal rights supporters call a cruel practice. The Park Service also says that the new proposal in part would, quote, lower the risk that bears will associate food at bait stations with humans and become conditioned to eating human-produced foods. I actually agree with the animal rights people. First off, I wouldn't ever use the term animal rights because I don't want animals to be likened to human beings. I think that's a major problem in the society. You have mentally ill people who are probably more like animals and they think animals are human beings. So I wouldn't say animal rights, but I think it is civilized, number one, to respect human living creatures, number one, and then number two, it's wise not to condition wild animals to eating human foods, and especially dangerous animals which would be attracted to campsites and thereby increase potentially the number of fatalities among human campers because the bears are conditioned to searching for Pop-Tarts and things like that. Which, funny story, I went to the UCLA unit camp as a child, which is a camp for underprivileged youth. And the very bed that I was sleeping in, the very bed, the week after I left, there was a kid there who had some Pop-Tarts and was killed by a wild bear. Isn't that something?
We have Kelway Up joined Patreon as well.
Kelway Up just joined Patreon.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Saints who are joining at patreon.com/the Saint in the Center. We welcome you. We appreciate you. And we'll make sure that we get you through new member orientation so you can meet the folks and also eventually join our Discord. Okay, so that was a cool piece of news. Something I wouldn't have thought of. Next one is the white sedan. How police found suspect in Idaho slayings. Have you heard of any Idaho slayings?
Yeah, like 4 college kids were killed.
4 college kids were bodied. No kidding. Huh. I hadn't heard of that.
We have Marcos just bought a beanie on Man and Woman brands.
Shout out to Marco supporting. And Man and Woman brand is a brand that I really take pride in as much as it represents man and woman. It's like our flag. It's the flag of people who believe in family, people who believe in heterosexuality, people who believe in mental health. Okay, so this guy doesn't look entirely crazy. He looks like a fairly normal white guy, would you say? Yeah, I wouldn't be suspicious of this guy. All right, let's see. There's a place called Moscow, Idaho. Wow. Wowzer, okay. The white sedan cruised past the gray. Can you make the thermostat warmer, please? Just give me 1 degree. The white sedan cruised past the gray 3-storied rental home on a dead-end street in Moscow, Idaho. Then again and again. It was unusual behavior in the residential hillside neighborhood in the quiet hours before dawn. Dawn is when the sun sets, right? Yeah. Okay. And according to the police affidavit released Thursday, surveillance videos showing the vehicle that November night were key to unraveling the gruesome mystery. I'm going to reread that sentence. And according to a police affidavit released Thursday, surveillance videos showing the vehicle that the reason it's not reading well is because it's not written well. What the writer is trying to express is that this is the same vehicle that was spotted back in November that is connected to gruesome murders of 4 university students. That's what the writer was trying to express, but they wrote a run-on sentence. Quite sad when your actual job is writing and you're writing a short article. It's one thing to write a whole book like The Black Box, which you can get on Amazon, and have some typos and grammar issues. It's a whole book. But when you're writing one article, you would think you might be able to proofread that joint, and maybe have the copy editor proofread it because you're in a whole organization. But I guess not.
Okay, we have Ilbruce at Peace to the Saints. If you haven't joined the Patreon, get on that. I just joined a few days ago, and I'm soaking up all the videos on there. Truly a game changer.
Absolutely. A lot of exclusive content there.
And I don't know if your article said this yet, but the King pointed out this guy was a criminal justice PhD candidate.
Shut up. Oh, I think I did hear about this one on the television. He was a criminal justice PhD candidate. Yeah. Did we see this on the telly together?
We may have.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So at least we know he has some brains. Number one. So he'll be a tricky one. This will be a fascinating case. This will be a fascinating case. We're probably going to see this one in a couple of years on Forensic Files season 80, right? While little else to go on as a panicked community demanded answers, investigators canvassed security footage from the neighborhood, including one recording of the car speeding away after the slayings to get a sense of the killer's possible movements, the affidavit said. This is terribly written. Eventually, the document said police were able to narrow down what at first was known only vaguely as a white sedan to a 2015 Hyundai Elantra registered to Brian Koberger, a 28-year-old doctoral student in criminology at Washington State University. Is Washington State the prestigious university in St. Louis area?
No, I'm guessing it's in like Washington State.
Okay, this is not Wash U, right? Okay.
No, because it's by Idaho.
Okay, got you. Just across the border from Pullman, Washington. Oh, good point. Yeah, this is not the prestigious one. Not to say that getting a PhD is not prestigious. It is. This is a diligent person. Further, investigation matched Koberger to DNA at the crime scene. That's not a good look. Koberger made an initial appearance in an Idaho courtroom Thursday following his extradition from Pennsylvania, where he was arrested last week. His attorney didn't immediately respond to a request for comment, though a public defender who represented him in Pennsylvania, Jason Labar, has said he is eager to be exonerated and should not be tried, quote, in the court of public opinion. Well, in this climate today of social media, you are for sure being tried in the court of public opinion, but he has one thing in his favor, which is he doesn't look crazy. He has two things in his favor. He doesn't look crazy. He's a reasonably young, decently good-looking white gentleman, and he's also educated. Those all go in his favor. He's also a white male who have been under a bit of attack, but I think overall being a white male will work in his favor in the criminal justice system. Quote, tracking movements in public is an important technique when you haven't identified suspects, end quote, said Mary D. Fan, a criminal law professor at the University of Washington. This woman's a nut because, quote, tracking movements in public, this is something that removes all of our privacy and is no good to a free society. But yes, it is making it easier to track down people who may have committed crimes. But should we all lose our freedom at that expense, with that as the only opportunity? I think there are other ways to solve cases. But ideally, we would invest in mental health and good education and strong families to prevent lunacy and thereby these kinds of cases. Quote, you can see movements in public even if you don't have probable cause to get a warrant. It's sad how a law professor is speaking of this as though it's a good thing. This is clearly a leftist, and it's also clearly a female who's not thinking long-term or as a leader. You see, if you can, the reason that you had to get a warrant before, you dumb broad, is because our public information, be it our DNA, our public information, our movements, our DNA, all of these things belong to us. It's our private information. So that's why you have to get a warrant. You get a warrant to search someone's house, to search their cars. You get a warrant to get their phone records. You got to subpoena those things. She's making it seem as though it's a good thing you don't need a warrant. That's why we had warrants, you dumb broad. She further states, quote, we live in a time of ubiquitous cameras. This is true, especially if you live in China. This is a remarkable account of what piecing together that audio-visual data can do. This is a short-sighted individual. This is an individual who won't understand how bad this is until she's victim of it. This is an individual who does not understand the concept of government overstepping. This is a sick person.
Okay, we have Joseph sent a cash app or tuition via cash app.
Shout out to Joseph, appreciate it.
Carry on.
The car's first pass by the home was recorded at 3:29 a.m. Generally not many good things happen at that hour. Would you agree?
I agree.
3:29 a.m. on November 13th, less than an hour before Kaylee Goncalves, that's an unusual last name for someone who's named Kaylee, but we all know she's a hell of a white girl, right? Who do you know named Kaylee who's not a super white girl? I want to introduce you to my friend. This is Sarah Kaylee. Right? Kaylee is right there. It's like, hi, I'm a white girl. Kaylee, you're going to jail. You kill somebody named Kaylee, you're going to jail, and the government is about to use an unnecessary amount of resources to do the research. Doesn't matter if she was a coke whore, a dirtbag, or any of that. You're going to jail. The government really wants to protect people named Kaylee. I promise you. Oh, and then the next girl named Madison. My friends Kaylee, Katie, Kate, Sarah, and Madison. Yeah, you're going to jail, buddy. You do not go around killing white girls in America. That's what you don't do. I remember when that girl, JonBenet Ramsey, was kidnapped. You remember that?
Yeah.
Little white girl. She got kidnapped. Everything on the news was JonBenet Ramsey. They didn't spent FBI. Everybody was looking for this chick. You do not kill little white girls or white women. They are a protected class of human beings. And then somebody named Jana, Xana, Jana Kernodle. What? Hey, at least she was smart enough to be hanging out with white girls. That will keep you safe. And Ethan, he couldn't do nothing. This had to be a gun slaying. Nope. It says were stabbed to death in their rooms. Were they sleeping? Because all I got to say is, look, if you got a 4-on-1, I ain't taking no L. No, sir. If it's 4 people, one's a male, you got 3 girls, and one dude is doing the stabbing, unless he's the juice, OJ Simpson, nah, he ain't about to successfully stab all of us. Because OJ was a fine athlete, right? You heard me? OJ had the speed, the agility, the strength, the height, the size. Nah, ain't a PhD student about to stab me to death. No, 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 no. Me and Kaylee and Madison, we about to make something work. No way. No way. Oh, we got another video. Almost want to take a vote on if it's worth watching. Let's see. Go ahead and max.
On the one hand, it's
go. There we go. We maxed there. Boom. You caught up?
Real quick, as you guessed, the Madison and Kaylee are both blondes, but might be fake blondes.
Of course, white girls are always fake blondes nowadays. It's gross.
And Ethan looks like a 12-year-old boy.
And Ethan looks like a 12-year-old boy. I guess that's why he got stabbed to death. Okay. Now let's see. Let's see. Let's hear this video.
they have DNA. It sounds like they have an eyewitness. They've done some work on the car. They've done some work on cell phones, location data. They seem to have.
Who is narrating this from inside of a porta potty? Why the boy in a porta potty giving a news briefing?
Covered a lot of bases to try to connect a suspect, connect somebody to the crime scene. On the other hand, do they have direct evidence? One thing about DNA is if somebody has touched that before, then if say the defendant here.
By the way, if you're currently enrolled in University of Idaho, you should drop out. I'm not saying drop out because dropping out of school is a good thing. I'm saying drop out because this guy sounds like an idiot. And if he's managed to rise up to be a law professor or a professor of anything other than making French fries at McDonald's, you getting ripped off. Because when your professor sounds dumb, that's a bad sign.
Okay, Brandon sent a super chat. He said, "Thanks for great news coverage, Mr. Burton. Scarce nowadays."
Yes. Thank you for those supporting this work. And shout out to the people who are currently disenrolling at University of Idaho, because this guy sounds like a moron.
Here has touched this knife sheath, for example, before. That doesn't necessarily place him at the crime scene. It places a sheath that he has touched at the crime scene. They don't have a direct eyewitness. It sounds like they have a witness who saw eyebrows or something like this. It is good in many respects and maybe not. They don't have the bloody glove, so to speak, but maybe, they have the knife.
Hey, shout out to the OJ reference. I reference OJ, he referenced OJ. The boy OJ, a legend for killing chicks, but maybe it's because these white girls were killed. It's just like, it makes perfect sense. And it was a stabbing too. It was a white girl stabbing. So this is kind of akin to the OJ thing. That boy OJ know how to get his stab on though. For real, for real. He could be a professor of that.
Knife sheath, the bloody knife sheath. I suppose the defense could be challenging the government's use of these technologies, of using phones and surveillance cameras and pings and whatever to essentially, at its worst case, create a surveillance state. And arguably,
Now, one thing I have to respect that he finally said, which is not a novel or a unique idea, he just repeated what I had stated before him, which is that you don't want to be in a police state where you're constantly under Big Brother's government supervision without your consent. So he did state that, and I do believe that there may be a legal strategy that the young man's defense team can put together that will nullify the evidence, which is to say not allow that evidence to be admissible because warrants were not secured and because it was public information, so he might be able to get those pieces of evidence barred and not taken as evidence. And I think that'd be smart on his part.
you could say the Fourth Amendment protects against that because we have a right against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, the Supreme Court hasn't interpreted it that way. So there could be some legal challenges that the defense could raise.
And this is another reason I'm glad that I never became a lawyer, because you can look at the background and where he's at. He's broke. Generally, academics are broke. But, I would hope that he practiced law for some amount of time if you're a law professor. And people ain't really earning like that in the profession. So if you go into law, go into it because you love it, because you probably ain't going in it for the money unless you're going into corporate. You're going to be in business, international business. Ideally, you're going to be doing mergers, acquisitions, big time stuff. Otherwise, you're going to be like this boy right here in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, with a whole hat collection in the back, because apparently you don't like rocking the baldy, or it must be super cold. I don't know. Carrying on.
Ways in that regard to say that some of those things have happened. As far as how persuasive is it to a jury, I think that type of stuff is quite persuasive to a jury, I would think.
Do you understand?
Yes. It's not a requirement in a criminal case that the government prove a motive to commit the crime. Typically for murder, you have to prove that the person intentionally killed someone. But I think most people want to understand why this person did that. And it becomes kind of a sub-proof issue for the prosecutor to say, and here's our explanation. It's possible the police don't have it. It's possible they're saving it until trial.
One thing that we know is going to be a major factor, of course, is the motive. We all want to know, why did you kill these normal, innocent white girls? I don't even know them, but based on the name Kaylee and Madison, we're all assuming they're normal, innocent white girls. That's the privilege of being a white woman in America. They try to claim that the white man got all the privilege, but nah, it's actually y'all. That's why I became a white woman. You dig? I identify as a white woman because they got all the privileges. That being said, people are going to be curious as to the motive. If the motive cannot be established, that'll be favorable to the defendant. Furthermore, in the absence of a motive, that'll be favorable. If he's able to bar some of this evidence because it constitutes, unlawful search and seizure, and if he's able to keep his mouth closed, he might be all right. You see, mostly, and you guys watch First 48, you guys watch these crime shows. It's rarely good police work that leads you in jail. It's either a snitch, like your crimey, your co-defendant, or someone else that was involved or witness. Is either a snitch that lands you in jail or it's your own mouth. So we all have to learn how to be better about not talking, closing our mouth. Like, I'm one of the guys that has to practice this. So, like I even say for myself, keeping silent, that's a beautiful thing for all of us. So if he can keep his mouth closed, he might be able to just wiggle his way out of this one. Not that I'm rooting for a criminal to go free. I'm not. I'm just saying on an objective level, that's what he would need to do. Carrying on.
Trial. I could say generally, if I'm going to talk about that, why the roommates didn't call police, there also could be tremendous fear, right? That a person is.
See, this is really perplexing to me, and this is how I know that I don't understand the nature of humankind. To me, I find this to be very primitive, like almost something that a thoughtless caveman does. People have died in this spot. Why commemorate a place where someone has perished? Why make a monument to death? Why make a monument to something that's not good? That's number one. Then number two, why are we putting perishable flowers and a bear? Why are we littering somewhere? It just seems strange. How does this doesn't bring them back to life? You're not what are we doing here? Human beings are weird.
Afraid that there's still somebody lingering there. They don't have access to their phone. They're afraid that people have been hurt. I mean, there's a variety of reasons, again, that a person could wait.
Cool. So I think that was I think that's a pretty interesting case. I'm actually fascinated to track this case as it proceeds. And this is the latest because this article came out just yesterday. So this is the latest on this particular situation. So let's see if there was anything that we didn't get. The vehicle drove by twice and was recorded a fourth time at 4 a.m. Just the back and forth, that would indicate that you're doing something. There's some activity. You're not on a leisure drive, not at 4 a.m. And the fact that you went back and forth, you're engaging in some kind of task. What is that task? Quote, this is a residential neighborhood with a very limited number of vehicles that travel in that area during the early morning hours. Payne wrote, quote, upon review of the video, there are only a few cars that enter and exit this area during this time frame, end quote. A forensic examiner with the Federal Bureau of Investigation determined the car to likely be a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, though subsequently said it could be a model as late as 2016. I'm going to need them to be a little bit of a better expert. You done gave me a 5-year range on the car. Surveillance footage from the Washington State University campus offered further tantalizing information. A similar vehicle headed out of town just before 3 a.m. on the day of the killings and reappeared on cameras in Pullman just before 5:30 a.m., the affidavit said. This is a terribly written article in as much as it's not interesting. It has a lot of details, but doesn't give you the significance. I'm going to go into the next article, but we will be keeping up with this case because this one's kind of interesting. I want to know, well, let me actually just see at the end if it tells us why he killed these white girls. And you might say, Marquett, why are you not mentioning Ethan? He killed a white guy also. Nobody cares. Let's be real here. When men die, no one cares. When the ship is sinking, they say, save the women and children. We don't have mercy for men, so I'm not about to start pretending today. Now, why did he kill these white girls? It doesn't say. I'm scrolling through, master scanner, master skimmer. There is no motivation identified, and that's favorable for him. If the news article hasn't put that out, the court of public opinion, that is you and I, the public cannot paint him out to be a villain, because villains, even villains, need a motivation. They need a story as to why they do the things they do. Next piece of news, which I really like, I shouldn't say I really like, I mean, it's very interesting to me. We have El Chapo, not El Chapo, actually the son of El Chapo. And this is something I really don't like. I don't like when the family members of public figures or of supervillains or politicians or whomever are held accountable for the actions of the father. It's like, look, if the father's a dirtbag, that doesn't mean that the son or the daughter's a dirtbag. And certainly if the father committed crimes, doesn't mean the child needs to go to jail for it. I think that's quite a bad precedence. And this is something that happened with the Ukraine-Russia situation. The relatives, the children of Putin, are being penalized. And in this case, let's see what's going on with El Chapo's son. Was he also a goon, or was he just the son of El Chapo? Mexico gives account of violence after Chapo's son nabbed. Now, one thing I can tell you, them drug cartels in Mexico, that is not a game. And I can tell you from firsthand experience. Last time I was in La Ciudad, I was staying at a hotel, the best hotel in La Ciudad, and I kept noticing there was heavy, heavy police presence outside of the hotel. One time I went on the elevator and I got off maybe at the wrong floor, I guess you could call it, because there was like guys right outside of the elevator. And as soon as I got off the elevator, like, whoa, get back in the elevator. I was like, what? I'm going to my room. They're like, no, you're not about to go to your room. And I know there's a whole bunch of personnel. The whole hotel was empty except me and one other party. And apparently that party was a big deal. That was the police chief of the Mexico City, right?
They were trying to kill.
It was the police chief of Mexico City who had already had an attempt on his life, an assassination attempt, which was perpetrated by the cartel, one of the cartels, maybe all of them. That's the kind of thing I would have collaborated with. If I was one of the cartels, I was like, look, I'm willing to work with you guys. I might be Sinaloa, you might be this and that, but I'm willing to work with y'all if we could get this guy out of here. And they were trying. And my understanding is the attempt on the life of the police chief of Mexico City was really clever. They had actually had guys dress up as construction workers. They had even dug a big ditch, and they were actually engaging in construction work. And as his motorcade was driving by, they hopped out with them things and started letting off the yapper, kind of like they were a 6-year-old kid in Virginia, you might say. And they didn't take him out, but after that, he doubled down on the security, which is why your boy was seeing all these agents all over the place when I was at that hotel. Mexico's a serious place, and the responsibility of any government is to monopolize violence within their political territory. And when you fail to monopolize violence, which is to say to be the biggest, baddest gang, America has done that really well, then you're going to suffer cartels that are as dangerous, as powerful as the government, as the police, as the army. And then the citizens start to fear the gangs more than they fear the government, which means that they're going to be more obedient, and they're not going to snitch, and they're going to live by the law, not by the government, but they're going to live by the law of the land, which is actually the law set by the cartel. And that's why you see situations like with the YSL case. You see how I'm pulling all the news together here? Pay attention. With the YSL case, they have a RICO statute, which is against organized crime, organized gangs, like the Sinaloa cartel would be an example of that. And that's why America breaks these organizations apart early. They destroy the American mafia, the Italians, which they haven't really done, but they've at least done it enough. And they're destroying YSL so that these bodies, these organizations don't become strong enough to create Mexican cartel situations in America.
Okay, we have a PayPal from Ryan. He said, "Greetings, Saint. I would like to know your thoughts on Nikola Tesla.
Nikola Tesla, which
Many content
was
creators use him as an example for semen retention, MGTOW, etc., because they believe him renouncing women was his key to his genius. Personally, I always thought him not having children was a terrible and sad decision.
Mhm.
He had no one to pass on his genius or knowledge, nor protect him and his inventions in his old age. What are your thoughts? Peace to the saints."
My thoughts on Nikola Tesla is that clearly he had some brilliance. For a great many people have adopted his name, see Tesla, the motor company. And he's been written about throughout history, and that's kept his legacy alive. Not to say that I care about legacy, but number one, I don't think he was as impactful as a Thomas Edison, the people who were able to actually push through their inventions and also commercialize them effectively. So I think one, that was a shortcoming in my perspective. And then number two, um, when you talk about having children and passing on genius, the science has indicated that genius is not passed on in the way we would instinctively think it is. We learned this during the eugenics movement. Part of positive eugenics was the idea that you would breed high IQ, good looking, physically fit, healthy persons to produce a greater human being. The science actually revealed that many high IQ individuals don't necessarily come from high IQ parents. So, positive eugenics was not quite as scientifically sound as we would like it to be in terms of passing on genetics. However, positive eugenics does make sense for passing on a good upbringing that would lead to better outcomes for society. But in general, I think he was an impressive gentleman. I don't think that we lost much in him not having kids. And in fact, he probably was more productive not having children, being able to focus more psychotically on his work. So I do respect that, and I understand that. With regards to the semen retention, I think that a lot of people exaggerate certain aspects of semen retention. I think it has utility, but they forget that the body goes in cycles. The male body, just as the female body, has a cycle, in their case, menstruation. And I think that there are diminishing returns on retaining your semen, because at a certain time, you're probably reaching a plateau on the returns of that. And I think there's a natural cycle for releasing semen, which is to say that is a person who is a year out with semen retention experiencing greater benefits than a person who's 5 months out with semen retention? That's one question, research question for you. Another one is, when you renounce women, are you not renouncing one of the great joys in life? Are many of the people who are working so hard to make money, are they not just pursuing greater appeal on the sexual marketplace? And let's be real here. These are people who don't fundamentally understand human nature. Human beings are fundamentally driven. This is the Marquettist perspective. Fundamentally, you can understand humankind and their activities through the lens of lust, which is to say sex, greed, which is to say money, and then control and fear. Sometimes control and fear are paired together, but people seek to have control, sometimes only of themselves, sometimes also of others, and then they avoid fear. Sometimes they exercise control because of fear, but those four things will help you understand humankind. But hope that answers your question. Thank you very much.
Carry on.
And thank you for supporting the work. Sometimes we kind of go with a little bit of dead time. Thank you for keeping us going. Appreciate you. Mexico City. I wish we had a video on this one, because looks like Mexican plane hit after drug lord detention. Oh, this is fascinating. Let's go to the video first. And I can't lie, this stuff is fascinating. Because the guy Chapo is just a real boss, like he is what rappers claim to be. Like if everything that Rick Ross said in his rhymes was true, he'd be El Chapo, right? So we're getting to see the genuine article before our eyes, and we know El Chapo is in prison right now, but we're still seeing the impact of his large international criminal enterprise. So let's hear a little bit about this. Oh,
Tiene soldados.
Wow. Wow. That's gangster. Wow. Look, what you're seeing is that the cartels are A, brazen, B, very powerful, wildly powerful. When you have the cartels blocking off streets, freeways, access points, like they are the government, that's powerful. When you have the drug cartels that are hitting aircraft in attempts to prohibit one of their bosses from being flown to another place to be prosecuted, that's power. And I want you guys to really understand what power actually is. Power is not what comes out of the mouth. Power is what comes out of the rifle barrel. You dig? It's what can actually be done. This is high level power right here. And it's certainly an embarrassment to the Mexican government that they have these rogue organizations within their territory that are completely out of control. And just to give you a historical perspective, there was a time when one of the statesmen in Mexico was really pushing hard at the cartels, a war on drugs. And what the cartel did very strategically is they started creating terror within the country, which is to say killing civilians, basically anyone that would cooperate with the police body. And then they would also have random attacks so that they terrified the population so that the population would either vote these persons out of power, or the government, realizing that they couldn't protect innocent people who could be attacked at any moment, said, okay, we're going to stop persecuting the cartels because the population is getting mad at us because the cartel is exposing that we can't protect them. So it's very strategic. And man, those cartels are ruthless, and it's going to be hard to beat the cartel when you're not willing to be as ruthless as them. Can the government beat the cartel when the cartel is willing to kill your children, your grandma, your parents, your pets, your relatives, and then like hang your dead body on a tree in the public sphere, and the government's not willing to go to that length? They're going to be very hard to defeat.
Okay, we have Free Game Podcast is back. He was on the last one as well. He said, "Hey Saint, what is that hat called that you wear that the African president Mobutu used to wear?" And then he said, "You should produce that hat yourself."
You know what? I really should.
You did produce that one, though.
Yeah, I did produce that one. And I like to call that a Marquett hat. You did, because right now the big homie is the only one that has it. You heard me? And being that the hat is produced from a real animal hide, genuine leather, and then it has a fine fur on it, an authentic fur. This is a custom hat that actually has to be measured to your head's circumference. So I would actually need the centimeter measurement of someone's head. And most people don't know the centimeter measurement of their head. And also they probably are not going to want to shell out what it costs to have real animal fur hat. So that's kind of the challenge with producing like very expensive products like that, is that it'll have a limited adoption.
And you can tell when it arrives that it's real.
Oh yeah, when it arrives, you can tell. Yeah.
Okay, we have Arturo sent a cash app. He said, "Tuition, thank you, Marquett."
My pleasure. Shout out. Was that Arturo or the other one?
The way you just said it.
Arturo. Okay, shout out.
Carry on.
Absolutely. Getting back to this Mexico news, which is fascinating stuff. And the Mexican people have such a beautiful culture, aside from like these unfortunate things, these terrorist attacks, and the crime going on. They have a phenomenal culture and some of the best food in the world, and also a tremendous number of beautiful women. Now let's get into this. Mexico City, the operation to detain Ovidio Guzman, the son of imprisoned drug lord. They ain't say he was a drug dealer. That boy a drug lord. Lord. He's a drug lord. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman unleashed firefights that turned the northern city of Culiacan into a war zone with 30 dead, authorities say Friday. Look, now here, let me tell you the difference between real power and BS. Real power is when the government says, hey, young thug, we're going to take you down and put you on trial. And then young thugs, people say, no, you're not. No, you're not. We about to pop off a war. We killing 30 people. We ain't even claiming to be innocent. And just to let you know we guilty, we going to war and say you ain't taking none of us and we don't care who get killed. That's power, okay? It's power when you say, I will not even submit to your courts and your law. That's power. YSL, that ain't power. You heard me? They about to be victims. In a blow-by-blow description of the battle Thursday that killed 10 military personnel and 19 suspected members of the Sinaloa cartel. Now, mind you, you need to pay attention to this data. If the Sinaloa cartel lost about twice as much as the military, you'd have to say, damn, that's rather impressive. The military is trained for warfare. The Sinaloa cartel are like basically peasant foot soldiers from rural parts of Mexico. And these boys are able to contend with trained killers. That's impressive. I'm impressed. You know, if you go into war with the actual army and your losses are not significantly more than their losses, Marquett Devon Burton is impressed with you, okay? I'm impressed. So these boys then bodied 10 soldiers and they lost 19 members of their cartel. Defense Secretary Luis Crescencio Sandoval, these long names, gotta love it, said cartel gunmen opened fire on troops with a half dozen 50 cal machine guns. Woo, these boys go hard. The Army responded by calling in Black Hawk helicopter gunships. I never even heard of a gunship. That's what's up. The boys then called in the Black Hawk, the choppers. Get to the chopper. To attack a convoy of 25 cartel vehicles. 25 cartel vehicles? The boys then got the infantry. The cartel got infantry out here. When your gang requires that the government send in shooters in helicopter-mounted shooters, your gang is thorough. Respect. Man, keep their name out your mouth. I'd be impressed if the cartel just showed up with their own chopper, though. That would be raw. What? I feel you. Okay. Well, why don't you? I'll take care of this. Let's get some food set up. Cool. Anyways, and folks, if you keep supporting, I'll keep going because I'm all about the work. But if not, I'll go ahead and wind it down. I'm immortal. Human beings need to eat. Here we go. The Army responded by calling in Black Hawk helicopter gunships to attack a convoy of 25 cartel vehicles, including truck-mounted cartel gun platforms. They had gunners mounted on mobile vehicles. This is actual warfare. Low-key, Ukraine need to be hitting up the Sinaloas trying to get some military weapons. Somebody calls Zelensky. He needs to hit up the cartel. Oh, by the way, also, ballers have called in. Shout out to Omni Design Studio. He writes, the cartels will never disappear. Never. Too many officials in the U.S. and Mexico government are profiting from the drug trade. You ain't never lied. If the U.S. wanted, they could crush the cartels easily. I don't know about easily, but they could certainly crush them. I'm going to sign off on that. I think it would involve a little bit of work, though. You dig? I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park. Justin writes, my girlfriend told me that her single friend made a negative remark about me not joining my girlfriend while she visits her family. Basically said I'm wrong for not showing up to this event. Advice. Number one, you now have been made aware that you have an enemy in your midst, and that's good to be aware of. Generally, it's ideal when you are on good terms with your girlfriend's family and friends, because these are the persons who influence her. Certainly her friends at some level more than her family. So, because her friend is her peer, and women are social creatures. My seasoned advice is that you do not want to speak ill of the friend, for your girlfriend will surely pass that back to the friend, further emboldening that friend to go against you. So don't speak ill of the friend. That's pro tip number one. Pro tip number two is you'd be wise if you could to try to put your girlfriend around other chicks that are more favorable from a value standpoint. You should also ask your chick in subtle conversation, oh, well, do you think that your friend should be like speaking up on me or saying negative things about me? Like, what do you think of that? Get inside your girl's head. And then also engage her empathy. You know, I'm really glad that my friends never say negative things about you. Like, how would you feel if one of my friends says something bad about you? Like, would you think, like, what would you think? And then you might give her a hypothetical before you even say that. Say like, oh yeah, like, well, what if like my boy John said blah, blah, blah about you? Like, how would you feel about John? Just engage her thinking, right? And she might, oh, well, I might want you to like stop hanging around him if he doesn't like me. And then like, see if you can get her to map that same thinking onto her friend. But one thing I want to let you know will never happen. You will never be direct in saying, stop hanging out with that friend or stop talking to that friend. Essentially, stop being friends with that girl. That will never work. I've tried it mostly in my youth. It does not work. Wishing you much success with this, and you will encounter this many more times. It's okay.
Okay, on Cash App, we have Larnell said, keep it going, Saint, you're spitting bars.
He said, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Let's work then. I work. That's what I do. I work. The cartel. Oh, wait. The running shootouts. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to miss anything. This is good stuff. The Army responded by calling in a Black Hawk helicopter gunship. That's awesome. That's awesome. More than one, actually, to deal with the 25 cartel vehicles, which included truck-mounted cartel gun platforms. The running shootouts also killed one Culiacan policeman and wounded 17 police officers and 35 military personnel. Okay, let me retract my earlier statements. I'm going to go ahead and say the cartel won that battle. I'm going to say they won. Because look, if the cartel lost 19 people and the Army lost 10, but the cartel also killed a police officer, wounded 17 police officers, and wounded 35 other military personnel, I'm going to say they won in summary. And that's impressive. Shout out to their war strategist. Wow. The cartel then opened fire on the military aircraft. These boys is shooting at aircraft, forcing 2 of them down with a significant number of impacts. These boys are shooting military aircraft out the sky. This is big boss talk. The Italians have never gotten to this level. No criminal organization has ever gotten to this level. This is what they were trying to prevent with Pablo Escobar. They were trying to prevent stuff like this. You damn near have a situation where the cartel has its own army. That's an army. You shooting the aircraft out the sky, that's an army. These boys could go against Putin. These boys don't need no help. The Ukrainian army needs help. The Sinaloa is like, we got this. We don't need no donations, nothing. We got this. Wow.
Marcus said, thoughts on single mothers that go out every weekend drinking and partying. Peace to the saints.
Dirtbags. I don't even care if he said that go out partying every weekend or once every week. Dirtbags. Full stop. The cartel then opened fire on a military aircraft, forcing 2 of them down with significant impacts. The gang then sent hordes of gunmen. These boys got hordes of gunmen to attack fixed-wing aircraft, both military and civilian. That's why the Sinaloa cartel, or whatever cartel, that's why they're so powerful, because the ruthlessness. And good thing we didn't, you know what? This is crazy. I was actually about to pull up in Mexico City, and they're doing this at the Mexico City International Airport. I was about to pull up. Good thing I didn't, because like I ain't got relationships with the cartels to where I could just call them up like, hey, I'm pulling into the airport. Could y'all stop shooting? I'm pulling into the airport. Could y'all quit this? Just give me 10 minutes to get my stuff from bag check. Yeah, I ain't got juice like that. Not yet. But shout out to the Mexican saints, you dig? They might have a plug for the big homie. Anyways, carrying on. One civilian airliner was hit. The gunman also shot up an airport building in a bid to prevent authorities from flying the captured cartel boss out of the city. But Sandoval said authorities, anticipating the resistance, had loaded Ovidio Guzman into a military helicopter to fly him back to Mexico City. The Mexican administration bagged the high-profile cartel figure days before hosting U.S. President Joe Biden. Now, here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, and this is the calculation that every leader needs to take, and it was first stated by Henry Kissinger, a great mind, and we lack great minds in government today and in geopolitics today. He said that a statesman must choose between evils. Now, was it really worth it to arrest one dude? You didn't have civilians get killed, police get killed, military get killed, your international airport is shut down, commerce is at a standstill. Was it really worth it to put one guy in jail? I'm going to go out and say no. No, it wasn't. Wasn't worth it. The Mexican administration bagged the high-profile cartel figure days before hosting U.S. President Joe Biden. I got a hunch that Biden came in with his own security. Samuel Gonzalez, who founded Mexico's Special Prosecutor's Office for Organized Crime in the 1990s, said, I'm surprised he's still alive, said Guzman's capture was a gift ahead of Biden's visit. You're a nut. The Mexican government is working to have a calm visit, he said. You're a real imbecile to put the importance of some old white dude from another country ahead of the safety of Mexican citizens. You're a real fool. And you have no decency and no patriotism for the fatherland. You dig? For the patria. Is that what it's called in Spanish? Patria? I forget. I think that's Italian.
Okay, we have Casual Germ said, I just want to say for the U.S. military to crush the Mexican cartel, they would need to have a Russian approach to war, a complete disregard for human life,
Yes.
and that's not happening anytime soon.
Correct. A complete disregard for human life and collateral damage. Absolutely.
Carry on.
Juan Carlos Ayala, a Culiacan resident and Sinaloa University professor who studies the sociology of drug trafficking. There's a sociology to drug trafficking. Good Lord. He studies the sociology of drug trafficking, said Ovidio Guzman has been an obvious target for years. Did you really need a sociologist of drug trafficking to say that? Okay. Oh, we have an over-reliance on experts. And we also have an overpopulation of imbeciles with a voice. It's a strange dynamic. Quote, Ovidio's fate has been decided. Moreover, he was identified as the biggest trafficker of fentanyl and the most visible of Chapo's leaders. Okay, there you go. So I guess he is a drug dealer. Ayala said the atmosphere was calmer Friday, quote, but there are still a lot of burned out vehicles blocking the streets, end quote. Oh my goodness. The scope of Thursday's violence was such that Sinaloa Governor Ruben Rocha said cartel gunmen showed up at local hospitals trying to abduct doctors and take them away to treat their wounded fighters. This is gangster. I need a new gangster movie immediately. Bridge, can you remind me to look at my homie Julian's script that he sent me?
Yeah.
Because Julian the type of dude to make a movie about this. I got to read his script, man, because this is so gangster. Why do we not have a movie? This is just so... I love a good gangster movie, and this is just gangster.
I just sent you a link where it shows a video of all the people ducking on the plane.
Oh, yeah, is it a good one?
I didn't have volume on, so I can't really hear it.
Okay, you sent the link.
Yeah.
It didn't come through yet. Well, it says India. It's from India?
That's just the news article, but it's a Twitter link. Like, if you scroll down, there's a Twitter video
Okay.
of everyone on the plane ducking.
Okay, well, let's check it out. Man. This is great. You know, every now and then you have to be thankful for the places that you're not at. I was about to go to Mexico City. I'll be honest with you, this was my travel schedule. I was about to, so I left one island, I went to another island, then I was going to go to Guatemala City in Guatemala, and then I was going to go to Mexico City, and then I was going to go to LA, and then I was going to go to Vegas. But good thing, you know, we didn't.
Yes.
Wowzer. Okay, let's see what's happening on the airplane while they letting off the yoppers. Is this showing up on my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Small.
Okay. Let's go big then. Oh, baby gonna cry regardless. They scared. They big scared. They big scared. They big. Oh, they still trying to take off. That's great. They big scared. They still trying to dip though. Low key, me personally, if somebody is shooting aircrafts out of the sky, I'm gonna need you to keep my aircraft on the ground. You dig? I might have tried to hop out that joint before it took off. I prefer to be on the ground when people are shooting things out the sky. That's just me though. Wow, sir. Or maybe it's better to get out of Mexico City when they acting up like that, right? Maybe. Anyways, that's Hood trying to abduct doctors. Quote, it got to the point that at one moment the doctors were saying, quote, we're getting out of here, end quote. That's Hood. The doctor's like, look, man, I'm clocking out till this is over. Culiacan residents posted video on social media showing convoys of gunmen and pickups. You know what I would have did if I was a Mexican doctor? See, and I always tell you guys, as an entrepreneur, you need to think about what's next. You need to think ahead. You need to look for opportunities. If I was a Mexican doctor, I would have said to myself, okay, I could stay here and get kidnapped by the Sinaloas out the hospital and go against my will. Or I could go straight to the Sinaloas and say, look, I'm here to do a deal. I know you guys are probably going to need some doctors. I'm a doctor. I would have went in advance. Make sure we have some good facilities, you dig? And I say, hey, the Mexican government is paying me this much. I'm trying to make this much. And I'm just giving a service. You heard me? And I'd have tried to negotiate me a deal. That's just me, though. You can't go to jail for that, right? All you're doing is rendering like life-saving services, right? Yeah, I'd have tried to make me a deal. If I'd have went to jail for anything, it'd have been a jail for like price gouging. Because I'd have damn sure been price gouging. Oh, by the way, shout out to the ballers. Joshua came through. Shout out to the ones in Saint City. You dig?
Carry on.
All right. Anyways,
Oh, we actually have Johnny is back again on Cash App. He
Okay.
said, thanks for the real news.
I'm telling you, the news that matters and delivering it in full HD visuals, linguistically speaking. All right. Culiacan residents, do you have a snack for yourself?
We're good.
Okay. Culiacan residents posted video on social media showing convoys of gunmen in pickup trucks and SUVs rolling down boulevards in the city on Thursday. At least one convoy included a flatbed truck with a mounted gun in the back. These boys is ready. Unlike a failed 2019 attempt on Ovidio Guzman, the governor said it had to release him to avoid further bloodshed. That's gangster. This is the one we were talking about. This is when we were in Mexico City.
Yeah.
I was a part of this piece of history. I'm going to reread that for you. This is Hood. Unlike a failed 2009 attempt to arrest Ovidio Guzman, which is to say the government tried to arrest the boy. He had his soldiers and they were so much on go that they couldn't arrest him. The government said, hey, we lost too many men. We giving up. That's so gangster.
I just sent you a video of you in Mexico City with the police that you were mentioning.
Oh, shout out. Let me see. I might have to download this one. So I don't have my Let me see. So they know we talk pure facts out here?
Yeah.
We only talk the factuals and the actuals and the practicals.
Oh, let me send a better one. I actually have a longer one.
Oh, you got a longer one. So you're gonna wait till
seconds longer.
Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna let you do that.
You got it now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was going down. Let me see if it'll let me share this one. Mexico is something else, man. They got great churros, great Mexican food, gorgeous women. Some of them be turbo thick, but they also got these cartels, and it ain't nothing to play with. Not a thing to play with. Hold on.
This way people know your life is real.
People be thinking I be living science fiction out here. I heard people say the craziest thing. Is this the one? Is this
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me see if I can enlarge it. Because we do have a lot of phonies online. You're right. La policía The big homie. The big homie.
You can see him in the back. There's another one.
Oh yeah. I don't know if they can see because it's so small, but yeah. So yeah, Saints, that's when your boy was in Mexico City at the same hotel as the government official that they tried to murder, and they had crazy heavy security. Like, these dudes were all over the place. Hey, life is real.
Hotel were like Secret Service, like in suits with.
Like movie stuff, secret movie stuff. It was special, man. It was real special. Carrying on. Wow. Unlike a failed 2019 attempt to arrest Ovidio Guzman, the government said it had to release him to avoid further bloodshed. That's hood. They had him. They said, "All right, bro, you get to leave. Just go. You know, when he was in jail, he had hoes, he had churros, he had whatever. Hey, send me 10 churros and 3 prostitutes. 2 Colombians, 1 Mexican. This man is ordering prostitutes like they on a menu. He had everything he wanted in jail. Boss. Boy. Anyways, this time around, there were fewer civilian casualties. There weren't 0 civilian casualties. There were fewer civilian casualties. Just one 14-year-old boy was shot, but expected to survive. That's a pity. Oh, good Lord. The government. Oh, my goodness. One difference was that the September 2019 raid, and by the way, shout out to you for being so quick on the draw with your information. That's impressive. Wow. I don't even know if Siri could have pulled that up that quick. That was, you need a raise.
Thank you.
I ain't paying it, but you need a raise. One difference was that the 2019 raid was in the city of Culiacan itself around midday, while Thursday's raid was around dawn in a more sparsely populated area to the north. Victor Medrano, director of the Culiacan Chamber of Commerce, said that in 2019, quote, everything happened in broad daylight and we were caught on the street or at work, end quote. While most people stayed in their homes Thursday, by Friday, people were starting to go back out on the streets, Medrano said. Quote, there is still some fear, but as the day goes on, there are greater numbers of people out, end quote. And if you've ever been to Mexico City, it is a big, thriving metropolis. Is Mexico City the largest city in the world? I don't want to say crazy stuff, but like, tell me what the rank of Mexico City is, because it's very big. I just remember it being very big. I want to be right now.
It looks like.
Tell me the truth, though.
I will. Also, someone asked if you're watching the fight. It's not available where Marquett is right now. I looked to see if we could get pay-per-view.
Oh, we can't get pay-per-view in this country.
Not for this one.
Yeah, it gets like that. Who's fighting, though?
Davis.
Oh, really? Davis. Oh, word. Okay.
Hold on.
He's fighting some bum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we already know what's going to happen. Anyways, let's see. Sergio Alvarez, head of another local business chamber, said that in some sense the effects of Thursday's violence were greater. Quote, there were blockades across the whole city, end quote. Ishmael, goodness, how many people are they going to bring up? Director of the crusading local newspaper, said the cartels appear to have only grown stronger since 2019. That's good. When 13 people were killed in the failed raid. Quote, the cartels have taken advantage of these 4 years to organize themselves, arm themselves, strengthen their structures and their finances. They balling. He said, quote, I believe there are more weapons than 3 years ago. All of organized crime's armies have strengthened, not just the chapitos. And this is the price that society is paying for this strategy of the federal government. It damn near sounds like the newspaper guy is siding with the cartel. And I can't hate him, because here's the thing. If you side with the cartel, your ass might live. You side with the government, your ass is grass. And I hate to be vulgar, but it just is what it is out here.
I found 2 different lists. So Mexico's come in like at number 4 and number 6.
Okay, Mexico City. Mexico City is
Tokyo's number 1 on every list.
Oh, really? So Tokyo is the most populous city in the world,
yeah.
And Mexico City is ranked 4 or 5 in the world.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a very big city. Okay. Quote, the cartels have taken advantage. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we are. Thursday's violence was unusual in that it also targeted and forced the closure of Culiacan's airport. That's gangster, where one military plane and civilian airliner were hit by bullets. The commercial flight waited for its chance to take off as two large military planes landed with troops. Wow. When the airliner was finally preparing to accelerate, passengers heard gunshots in the distance. Within 15 seconds, the sound was suddenly more intense and much closer, and passengers threw themselves to the floor, some said. They said they did not know the plane had been hit by gunfire until a flight attendant told them. No one was injured, but the plane hastily retreated to the terminal. Guzman was indicted by the United States on drug trafficking charges in 2018. According to both governments, he had assumed. Now, mind you, here's an interesting thing. If we know he's a drug trafficker, you'd have to say, well, why didn't Mexico indict him? Mexico know better than that. But here's the sad thing. The Americans indicted him. The Americans want him turned in. The Americans are even going to house him in their prisons. But it's the Mexicans who are suffering. It's the Mexicans who are expending money, expending lives, having their economy destabilized. It's the Mexicans who are suffering for the one guy that the Americans want. If I was in Mexican leadership, I probably wouldn't really be rocking with this. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. Guzman was indicted by the United States on drug trafficking charges in 2018. According to both governments, he had assumed a growing role among his brothers in carrying on his father's business. And this is one of the reasons children are important. You dig? Carry on your dope business. Along with longtime cartel boss Ismael El Mayo Zambada. Foreign Affairs Secretary Marcelo Ebrard confirmed that the government had received a request in 2019 from the United States for Guzman's arrest for the purpose of extradition. He said that the request would have been updated and processed, but he added that first an open case in Mexico awaits Guzman. Let's be real. They're about to extradite him straight away. Let's be real. Because if they keep him in Mexico, it's gonna lead to protracted warfare. They're gonna be trying to get him out. He's gonna be extradited. Let's not lie to ourselves. Next news clipping, which is impossible to be more fascinating than that one, right? I mean, that is really fascinating. That news article alone, you can make a movie on. That is brilliance. Yeah, wow. Arizona's shipping container wall on border is coming down. Now, this is fascinating because I didn't know that there was a shipping container border wall. But I would like to say, if America is so down bad that we have to use shipping containers as a wall, that's pretty bad. But if we did need a border wall, why would you take it down, especially in the midst of a migration crisis, not only going on in this country, but also going on in other developed nations like UK? So this is weird. And this probably is connected to the leftist Biden administration. Former Republican Arizona government Doug Ducey's border barrier of shipping containers has been largely dismantled in time for a new Democratic administration. Understood. Costing tens of millions of dollars. So you're telling me they're taking down a border which makes us safer, reduces immigration, also probably reduces threat of terrorism, also reduces drug trafficking. We're taking down that barrier, and it's also costing us money. So we're losing on the safety side and losing financially. Thank you, government, for wasting tax money that you stole. Thank you. Amazing. Removal of the hulking red, gold, and blue steel boxes is creating a stark visual shift in affected sections of Arizona's southern landscape as a new governor takes power, and another $76 million in state funds is spent to remove the containers on top of the $95 million it cost to put them there. So you're telling me you can't think of a better way to spend $76 million than take down containers which are actually serving a purpose. I am outraged. Wow. This is truly disgusting. Wow. Our government is so rotten, it's not funny. Ducey, I should just call him Douchey just to be more accurate, had said that the containers placed an opening along the border near the western community of Yuma and across a grassland, blah, 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 blah. He said that the content. Wow. This is disgusting. There's nothing more to learn here except that the government is misappropriating tax dollars. Boy, that one really sent me over the edge. Wow. And this is why when you see the Democrats are looking for Trump's tax returns to see if he paid his taxes, which they really want to see if he paid a lot of taxes, right? That's really what they're, but why pay a lot of taxes when everything that they do with the taxes is foolish? Thank you to those supporting the work. Of course, let me know if I should carry on. Jen Shah of Real Housewives gets 6.5 years in prison. Wow. I have heard of the Real Housewives series. I don't know who this woman is. She appears to be a mulatto, a mixed black, maybe. Or maybe she just had the Michael Jackson surgery or treatment. Or maybe she's has vitiligo. I don't know. But she has
Tongan
a curious...
and Hawaiian.
She's what?
Tongan and Hawaiian.
Tongan and Hawaiian. Oh, so she's actually what she looks like. She's not a black woman pretending to look like that.
Right.
That's what's up. Shout out to her, Tongan and Hawaiian.
Mormon converted to Islam.
She's a Mormon. She was a Mormon converted to Muslim. Wow, fascinating woman. I can say this is a fascinating human being here. Well, let's see.
I googled that. I don't follow that stuff.
I hear you. Jennifer Shaw, a tearful member of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Wow, they do a Real Housewives of everywhere, huh? Goodness. Of Salt Lake City, who insists that she is not the character she plays on the show, and I believe that, was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison. Yikes. For defrauding thousands of people. That's a lot of people to defraud. She must have made some serious guap. Doing this to vulnerable or older persons in a telemarketing scam that stretched nearly a decade. That's a lot of scamming. Shaw, 49, was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Sidney H. Stein. Stein is a Jewish surname. And yes, there's a preponderance of folks of that ethnicity in the legal system, which is, shout out to them for being smart and going into professions where they get power. That's smart. It says that she's committed nationwide fraud that targeted people who were often, quote, unsophisticated electronically and could least afford to lose their money. Shaw pled guilty. You know you guilty when you plead guilty and get 6 years as a female. Yeah, she was guilty. Prosecutors sought a 10-year prison term, which would have been a year under the federal sentencing guideline. Long story short, she going to jail, okay? She's going to jail and she was scamming people. Doesn't say exactly what the scam was, but basically she's scamming old people and dimwits or people who might have acted dimwittedly. Is that a word? Speaking of such. And I've been one of those persons. We all are susceptible to scams. And she got some of us. Shame on her. Wow. I don't ever want to pretend as though that any one of us are above being scammed because we're not. But what I do encourage is that we use our brain as frequently as possible. It's not about how intelligent you are. It's about how often you are intelligent. And sometimes we go outside without our thinking caps on. It's sad to hear that she was scamming like that. And a next piece of news, it says Romania seizes more cars in Andrew Tate case. Court next week. I think I'll probably stop here. I'll give you guys a little bit of time if you want to send in your questions, thoughts, comments, or if you want me to go in. But I think I'll probably stop here on this one, meaning like the last one I did is the last one. Seizing the boys' cars. Slap in the face, indeed it is. Not that you need cars while you're in prison, but a slap in the face nonetheless. What's the ETA on the chow?
They're picking it up and it's right down the road. It doesn't have an ETA necessarily right now. It says 11:29. I don't think that's right.
Okay. You think it'll be sooner or longer?
Probably a little bit sooner.
Okay.
It says he's picking up the order now.
Bowler alert. Carlo writes, Biden is there to mess up as much as he can. I feel you. Ain't it sad? Which is why you should encourage friends to stop voting Democrat. Peace to the saints. Sir, truer words have rarely been said. I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I will for sure be voting my damn self. Yes, indeed. Somebody said they're playing Monopoly with our tax money. I tend to agree. I tend to agree. Interesting.
Okay, we have Brandon said, "Can you cover the French Montana video shoot? They said it was a tragedy."
You know, the funny thing is, I actually saw that listed, and I had decided not to cover it because it didn't seem tragic and it didn't seem interesting. But I'll go ahead and, since you requested it, I'll go through it now. But yeah, they kind of made it seem like not that big of a deal.
While you pull that up, we have Rock the Don said, "Peace to the Saints, big homie. My question is this: what are your two proudest accomplishments?"
That's a question that I'm thankful that you asked me, because truth is, I don't really think of this kind of thing very much, and it's good to sometimes be proud of yourself. It's sometimes good to be proud of yourself. My two proudest accomplishments. My number one proudest accomplishment is that I invented something. If you've ever purchased my conference 2 footage that talks about product-based business, it tells you about the 5 drivers of product development, how you come up with a product to sell on the market so that you can make some money for yourself. The simplest way to make just to get started is you take a product like maybe this, unplug this. You take a product like maybe this light. This is a mobile desk light. I always travel with a mobile desk light because I read a lot, I work a lot. So you take this mobile desk light and say this desk light is $30. This one's actually on my Amazon list, which I think is linked in the description. It's a great product. But you basically take it and you say, okay, you guys are charging $30. I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to charge $28. So you compete on price. You take essentially the same product, you duplicate it, and you compete on price. That's the easiest one to develop your own product to sell. And you're going to have a really short run because eventually price competition will remove profitability. But the most complex way to drive product creation and the most sustainable one and the one you'd be most proud of is invention. When you create something that's never existed before. And I created a category in a vertical, which is the concept of effortless attendance. I created that. And everyone who has created anything saying it's automatic attendance, effortless attendance, that came from me. I was the first one. So I'm really proud of that. And I'll be proud of that to my dying day because very few people can say they've ever invented anything. And I did that as a kid that came from nothing, taught himself technology, taught himself business. And so I'm very proud of that one thing. And then for a second thing, nothing immediately comes to mind. I don't want to try to think too much about what I'm proud of because I still have so much to accomplish. I think I'll be most proud of what we're able to do culturally with Assassin. I'm really proud of this upcoming basic training. And so I look forward to the Saints who will be there. And I know that it'll be foundational in terms of what we're building, which will be a global organization. So thank you for that question.
You have a perfect amateur boxing record.
You have a perfect amateur boxing record. That's true.
I failed to say he sent $100.
Oh, baller alert.
That's my mistake.
Yeah, we got to acknowledge them ballers in a real way. Shout out to Rock the Don. And he came through as a Don should, right? If you a Don, this is how you should pull up. Yeah. Oh, it's not his first time.
No.
He's a repeat baller.
Yeah.
Meaning he balls in all the games that he's in. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I do have a perfect boxing record. And the cool thing about it is not only is it a perfect record, anytime it went to scorecards, it was also unanimous victory. Or it was a knockout. Or their corner threw in the towel. Yeah. So yeah, your boy been opening up them cans of whoop you know what.
Okay, we have Mama's Office at Peace to the Saints. Quet, do you have a slower hand wrapping video? The one on Patreon is too quick for me to follow. Thoughts on fast wraps? I bought some because I suck at tying my own.
So number one, you can modify the speed of the video, I believe. I think you can adjust the speed, but if not, I would just download the video. So you can actually, all of our videos on Patreon for the members only, you can download all those videos. So I would just download it and then just play it and then just slow down the speed on your QuickTime or whatever player you have as a native app on your computer or phone. But nah, I get it. And the way that I tie hand wraps is really one of the best methods I've ever seen. There are different ways you can tie them, but I learned this from a boxing trainer who specializes in wrapping hands, and they do this for top pros. You know, guys you heard of, Caleb Plant, what's the kid? Sugar Shane Mosley. Anyone you can really name that's really been in the game, they've tied their hands. So this is who I learned it from.
Okay, what are your thoughts on fast traps? I think it's talking about like the yellow and black ones. That
I mean, it's fine. I usually don't mess with them just because it's one who has competed in boxing. You can't compete in fast wraps, and so I'm always trying to, when I train, when I'm visualizing, I always want to use the tools that are going to be used in the real thing. But I don't think there's anything wrong with fast wraps if you're just training. They don't look as raw. You heard me? They don't put me in the zone, but yeah, they get it done.
But you have a pair of people throw on if they're about to spar you and don't have their own.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a pair of fast wraps I let people use when they come and train with me. Absolutely, for sure.
Food is a little bit more delayed.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so here we go. With the French Montana. And shout out to Frenchie, you dig? Shout out to Frenchie. I respect French because he has real style and swagger, you dig? And as a guy who actually can afford and like dress in that same level, I respect Frenchie. And also shout out to Rick Ross, because Frenchie, Rick Ross, and Fabulous, F-A-B-O-L-O, Fabulous, damn. Those three, as far as rappers go, they have some real swag. They got real style, and I can respect it. You know, because they're one of the three human beings on earth that when I go out, like if they showed up, they'd be on the level. So I got a lot of respect for Frenchie, Fab, and who else was that? Frenchie, Fab, and Rick Ross. Yeah.
Justin just sent a Cash App, and he said "Peace to the Saints" in Spanish. Can you say it?
Paz a la Santos.
Paz para Los Santos.
Paz para la Santos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peace to the Saints.
Peace to the Saints in a real way.
On Super Chat, we have Son of Saturn said "Peace to the Saints." Thoughts on the stylish and discreet line of concealed carrier vest for the Saints? Wanted to preview your thoughts before a consultation.
Thank you for asking me this. I think that that's not going to sell very well. And one of my responsibilities is before anyone invests their time, emotion, and capital into an idea, I just want to be honest and give you the best chance to make good use of your resources. So when you're looking at selling a product that's related to concealed carry, you're looking at either people who are living in a state where they can conceal carry legally, like Arizona, or what was that, Georgia, Kentucky. So they either live in one of those states already, or they're in, say, California and Nevada, and they have a concealed carry permit, which are generally a bit hard to come by and take a lot of paperwork. So you have a subsection of the citizenry already that you can sell to. So it's already like a smaller market. Generally, when you're creating a product, you want to appeal to either a large market, a mass market, or a luxury market. So either you're going to sell a lot of whatever you're selling, or you're selling very few, but you're selling it at a very high price point because it's a luxury item and people will pay a lot. And this is how you get to the multi-millions. And anytime I'm looking at creating a product or even doing a service, if you must, or especially with technology, I want to get you to the $1 million plus mark. To me, it's not really a business unless we're talking in terms of millions. So I wouldn't do that as a real product. I probably think of something else. And thank you for sharing that. I'm happy to give you that feedback. And these are and sometimes people show up to their consultations. I've done a lot of consultations in the last week, mostly on business. Guys will show up to a consultation and they'll say, hey, like Jabrizi, for example, shows like, hey, I got 7 app ideas. And we just went through them like, this one, no, this one's really good. This one's pretty good. Hold on to this one. Let's work on this one. This is how we get it done. And that's great. I love guys who have a lot of ideas and they have good ideas. And in some cases, people have 3 ideas or 2 ideas. We figure out which one is best, and then we push forward on it. And then sometimes If I don't think any of the ideas are going to make you significant money, I will tell you. I'll say you had 5 ideas or 10 ideas. I don't think any of them will make you money. Let's go through the education on why, and let's give you a framework on how you can better think through choosing the right business and the right business model, or the right product and the right business model. So I'm all about trying my best to be honest with you, be realistic with you, and also give you the resources to like pull this thing all the way through. Thank you for your question.
We have Anti-T27 said, peace to the Saints. Other than Fabulous, French Montana, and Rick Ross, I have always liked West Coast rappers swag like Eazy-E and Snoop. I've always found West Coast dudes to be super player.
It's so true, man. And when I was talking about swag, I was talking about from a fashion standpoint. You got Fabulous, F-A-B-O-L-O-U-S, Fab, Fabuloso, Fab, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, damn, woo, woo, holla back, youngin'. Or you got French Montana, huh? Did you know French would be doing that? Or you got Rick Ross, Rick Ross, big boss, you know he do that? You didn't know that? Okay. Anyways, those three, they really know how to dress, and I can really tell what they're off of because I go to the spots that they go to. So when they're wearing it, I know what they're wearing. You dig? I know what the level's like. It's a beautiful thing to see it. But when we're talking about swag, but something deeper, like their way of being, their way of thinking, their mentality, you know, West Coast is laid back. West Coast is smooth. Like West Coast, low key, we taught the whole game. Everyone wants to be a Blood or a Crip. Well, that all comes from West Coast. When we say West Coast, we're talking about Southern California, Los Angeles. Let's be accurate. So Los Angeles is the purveyor of culture. It's the purveyor. It's the one that defines what cool is. You dig? Let me put you guys on some real game and pay attention. And real ones from LA can verify this. Number one, you hear people around using the word bro indiscriminately. I used to use that when I was in middle school, age 13. That's what we used to use in the neighborhood, bro. That's ours. Now you're hearing people say, my boy. You hear a lot of the Southerners, like Atlanta, Georgia people saying, like, my boy. No, that's ours. Yeah, if you go back and look at videos when I was like 13, 12 years old, like, yeah, my boy. Yeah, hey, let me holler at you, my boy. That's ours. You guys are getting on our swag 10, 20 years late. Yeah, it's ours. So we define what is cool. Yeah, LA, Los Angeles. Yeah, we created the blueprint. Everybody else just following it. So when you say that, you're looking at these guys from the LA area. They got swag, of course. That's where swag comes from. We created swag itself. Carrying on. Now, back to this. Oh, yeah, back to Frenchie. That's what we're supposed to be going, dealing with Frenchie. Here we go.
Thank you. Fox 35 is working to learn more about a shooting that reportedly injured 10 people in Miami Gardens.
Dang.
According to our partner station WSBN, it happened while
Wait a second. That sounds familiar. Miami Gardens. I think that might be the ghetto. Google that for me. I'm pretty sure Miami Gardens is the ghetto, as well as, what is that? Carroll City? I'm tripping. Carroll City? Man, I ain't been outside in a while. You hear me? I used to really get off the porch. Is it Carroll City in the Miami area? That'd be super lit. You got to help me out. But anyways, Miami Gardens. I'm pretty sure that's the gutter.
It says in the wake of construction in the late 60s, many middle and upper income African Americans and West Indian families migrated from Miami neighborhoods like Liberty City to
Liberty City. That's the gutter.
Okay,
That's the
but now
one.
they're in Miami Gardens.
Now they're in Miami Gardens.
Also called Carroll City.
Carroll City. Did I say Carroll City?
You did.
I did. Okay, I know my hoods because I really been outside in a
Mostly
real
lower
way.
income moved to the Liberty City, so it kind of like swapped.
Cool.
French Montana was shooting a video outside of this restaurant. Authorities responded to the scene just before 8 o'clock last night. They haven't confirmed the number of victims or released any information about their conditions. They do say, however, no one was killed. There's no indication French Montana was among the victims.
There you go. And that's pretty much what I saw in the article, which is to say that, there's not much information out. Now, I'm glad to hear that Frenchie, didn't suffer any harm, just as a fellow Super P. You dig? I like to see a cat that player. You know, when you have high self-esteem, you see another brother, good looking, tall, strong guy, well dressed, you be proud of him. You dig? Because he's just a reflection of what you are. You heard me? But that's the thing about haters is they see somebody that's real fly, they want to take you out the sky. Me, it's a wonderful thing because I'm like, man, there's very few of us. You heard me? You see a leprechaun, you see Bigfoot, you see a unicorn. Hey, it's something you want to marvel at, not hate on. But a lot of people, they want to do that. So I'm happy that Frenchie made it out of it, because I can identify with people like Frenchie, Rick Ross, and FABOLO, US. And, you know, your boy be at all the spots, because I actually saw FABOLO in concert. I saw Rick Ross in concert. I haven't seen Frenchie in concert. I might have to check that out. Carrying on. Here we go. It's funny you making that video, that face right there. Is that the I don't want to be here right now smirk? Let's see. Bucharest, Romania. 4 more luxury vehicles have been seized in the investigation into Andrew Tate, a divisive social media personality who was detained in Romania last week on charges of human trafficking, RAPE as well. The thing that disturbs me about this characterization of Andrew Tate, to call him divisive, is just very dishonest, and it's clearly biased, because if you call him divisive, number one, to divide would suggest that people were together. He did not divide. Rather, he basically gave voice to a group of people who shared the same feelings. He didn't divide those who were already connected together or unified. So that's frankly dishonest. And I really don't respect that at all. Prosecutors investigating the case seized the additional 4 vehicles on Thursday, on top of 11 others seized in raids last week. By the way, shout out to ballers. You dig? That's one thing I personally enjoy. You know, I love being in a strong situation. I love seeing other men in strong situations. I'm happy for him. I think that, hey, if you got to go out the way he going out. You know, it's beautiful in the news. They're like, we seized 4 of his vehicles. Everyday people at home like, I don't have 4 vehicles. They seized 4 vehicles. Most people don't have 4 vehicles, you dig? So I hope he's in the joint right now, engaging in some boss talk, enjoying this, because that's what a boss should do, you dig? See the beauty of the situation. Let me continue reading. At least 7 of the seized vehicles, more boss talk, more boss talk. The man has had 7 vehicles seized. Most people don't have 7 vehicles. And of the 7 vehicles he has, probably one of them costs more than most people's house. Carrying on. More boss talk. Some of which local media reported are limited editions worth up to $300,000. Are registered to Tate and his brother Tristan, who was detained last week. I could give Tate a pro tip and go ahead and say, you messed up there. You could have been in better condition and your vehicles wouldn't have been seized if they weren't in your name. But then again, if you end up in prison anyways, you don't need them. So either way, I'm sure things will work out for the best. Now, let's see. Some other vehicles either aren't registered or don't have documentation. Now that's sus. Bola also said that more than 10 properties or land owned by companies registered to the Tate brothers have been seized. Oh my goodness, they're seizing everything left and right. Ooh, Julius Caesar is back. Hey, I just want to say shout out to Tate for being the real deal. There's so many charlatans who will purport to be this or that, but brother Tate is what he said he is. Hopefully he's not what people have said he is. He is what he said he is, but hopefully he's not what other people have said he is. And he has the property, he has the, you know, whether we're talking about real estate as well as automobiles, shout out to him. I'm happy to see that he has prospered. I'm saddened to see that he is experiencing this kind of challenge. And one thing I want to let everyone know is sometimes when you have wealth, it is not the wisest thing to do to be opulent with your wealth. Me, I prefer to spend wealth traveling and experiences. No one can ever take my experiences out of my mind. traveled around the world, filled up several passport books, had great experiences, great relationships. The government can never seize that from me. They can never steal that from me. And sometimes when you have fabulous wealth and you put it on display, you make yourself a target, particularly for those who are jealous. Just imagine you're a guy on the order of Tate, you're driving a Bugatti, and you're being investigated by people who are making $30,000 a year, $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year. You might have that on your wristwatch. You dig? They don't like you. They fundamentally hate you. They're engaging in class warfare against you. They hate you not because you were trafficking. They hate you because you're driving a Bugatti. They hate you because you're flying private. So, there is wisdom in knowing that ostentatious displays of wealth are not beneficial to you. So I just want to put that out there for all of the ballers to think twice before you accumulate 11 automobiles. You dig? Some people ain't going to like that. Carrying on. Quote, if we prove they gain money through human trafficking, end quote, Bola said, quote, they will be taken by the state and we will cover the expenses of the investigation and damages to the victims, end quote. This annoys me because the government is saying that we're going to steal your stuff that you earned through your hard work, and we're going to pay for our bureaucrats and pay for our unnecessary investigation if we find you guilty. Well, here's the thing. If you're not guilty, then who pays for it? The taxpayer. But here's the thing. Why expend all those resources to try to find him guilty? If you're going to expend all those resources, you're searching for something. It should be abundantly clear. If he ran a criminal enterprise that brought in millions of dollars, there should be so much clear evidence you shouldn't have to expend a fortune to convict him. Tell me I'm wrong. Tate, a British citizen and former professional kickboxer who has amassed 4.4 million followers on Twitter, was detained last week along with his brother, Tristan, in Ilfov, an area north of Romania's capital, Bucharest. Two of the Romanian suspects are also in custody. In a statement last week, it was noted that 6 victims were identified who were subject to, quote, acts of physical violence and mental coercion, end quote. I hate to see claims of mental coercion because this is something that's so fuzzy. I can claim that I've been mentally coerced by a YouTube video. I've been mentally coerced by fill in the blank. It's a claim that's generally baseless, very hard to prove, which means it's hard to prove, but it's also hard to defend against. So if you have a biased jury or a biased legal system, well, you're going to be in really bad shape. You need a hand?
No, I just.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
You're going to be in really bad shape. So it's something that I'm sad to hear anyone has to fight against. You're fighting against a RICO case. You're fighting against mental coercion. Ooh, you in bad shape. And there surely is someone in government that's trying to take you down. Really sad. The agency said 2 British citizens in the case lured victims using the pretense of love, and later intimidation, constant surveillance. And well, isn't the government constantly surveilling? So if constant surveillance is a bad thing, let's put the government on trial too. And other control tactics into performing pornographic acts intended to reap, quote, important financial benefits. All 4 suspects are expected to appear in Bucharest court next week to have their appeals heard, contesting a judge's decision last week to extend their arrest warrants from 24 hours to 30 days. And that's such a huge extension. It does seem unreasonable, especially for someone that I assume doesn't have a significant criminal record, because if he did, surely it would have been plastered over the media. The Tate brothers will also appear in court next week to appeal the seizure of some of their belongings. I don't blame them. In a statement posted on Andrew Tate's website, which sells a program called The War Room for more than $5,000, intended, quote, for men who understand something is missing, end quote, says his detention is, quote, unfounded, politically driven, end quote. Absolutely, it's politically driven. Unfounded? Well, we will see. Since his arrest last week, a series of posts have appeared on Tate's Twitter account. One of them, posted Thursday, reads, quote, "Your enemies perpetuate justice and civility in a society designed to enslave you." In fact, I would even say people are enslaving themselves now by willfully being foolish, by willfully failing to educate themselves in the information age when information is easily accessible and often free. You feel sad for a reason. You can feel something isn't right. You must escape the matrix. They're very serious about that matrix metaphor, I tell you. They are very serious. I might have to start using the matrix metaphor. It's powerful, apparently. Saints, I'll give you a little bit of time if you have any questions, thoughts, comments on that one. I surmise that you probably do. But yeah, it's sad to see this happen. Really sad and unfortunate. Well, Saints, I'll give you some time to send your thoughts, questions, comments as we wind down. There was a lot of good news coming out recently. I mean, you got 8 dead in Utah murder-suicide after wife sought divorce. Apparently, he wasn't having it. Apparently, when he said "till death do us part," he meant that. He's a man of his word. Much respect to him for being a man of his word. Now, who the other innocent persons were, I don't know. It's unfortunate. Apparently, they had to go. Saints, it's been truly a pleasure to have this time to fellowship with you. Let us end with our tradition, the creed of the assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The creed of the assassin. I'm going to be who I truly am because I am remarkable. And I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace to the saints.
And Carlo came back after sending a baller alert and said, "It's been a great stream. Peace to the saints."
Peace to the saints. Thank you very much.